There was once a question. If you could own endless wealth in this world, but the price was being hunted forever by a snail, and nothing you did could stop it, would you accept? A snail only crawls 8.5 meters an hour, while a human can walk 5,000 meters in the same time. The gap seems ridiculous. The protagonist didn't even hesitate. He agreed on the spot. But that very night, a pitch-black figure kicked the door wide open. He froze in shock, stammering, "And miss, what do you want?" Her eyes were cold, carrying a trace of disdain. "Eliminate the target." With a whoosh, the massive scythe in her hands came slashing down. Luckily, he ducked just in time, barely dodging. Behind him, gold coins spilled out from a treasure chest. The coins clattered at her feet. She didn't even flinch. Her gaze only grew darker. That's when it hit him. He swallowed hard. I get it now. The snail has turned into a monster. He bolted, yet the figure just stood there, motionless. From that day forward, his life was cursed. At every set time, the awakened snail would appear. No matter if he fled to the ends of the earth, climbed the steepest cliffs, or even hid inside a chicken coop, she always found him. He grew weary, broken like a toy that had been played to pieces. "This is pure scam. Just kill me already. I'm exhausted." The snail raised her 40-meter-long scythe. He panicked instantly, backpedaling. "Sorry, wait. I changed my mind. Don't kill me, please." Eventually, he arrived at a towering fortress. He sighed to himself. So this is the infamous Goblin King's castle. Just the sight of it reeks of killing intent. If I get locked inside, even she won't be able to touch me. As he pondered how to enter, two goblins at the gate shouted, "Human, get lost. This isn't your place. Otherwise, don't blame us for dragging you inside." His eyes lit up. "That's perfect. Easier than I thought." He pulled a smug face, even slapped his own butt, and yelled, "Your grandpa's not leaving unless you drag me in yourselves. Useless goblins, eat dirt." The goblins blinked at each other. What's wrong with humans these days? Who even asks for this? Outrageous. We'll kill him instead. And so he ended up in the dungeon. Scribbling in his diary, he muttered, "I regret it, truly regret it. I knew there was no such thing as a free lunch, but I never imagined the price would be this heavy." Fate had already stamped its price tag on everything from the start. Just then, a voice came from the next cell. "Mr. ISO, what are you writing?" His name was ISO. Closing his diary with a faint smile, he said, "Nothing much. Just my will." "What is it, Miss Nona?" Nona tilted her head in confusion. "Write if you want, but why are you smiling? Do people really smile while writing their will?" ISO smiled softly. "Why wear a long face? This place isn't so bad." Nona stared at him in disbelief. "Did you just say this place isn't bad? This is the Goblin King's castle." The Goblin King was one of the kingdom's top powerhouses. His stronghold had been garrisoned for years, booby traps and automatons in such numbers that they couldn't be counted. Even the kingdom's holy knight order might not be confident of taking it by storm. ISO had even heard a rumor. A duke once led an army to save his kidnapped daughter and launched an assault. Yet in the end, the invincible Goblin King slaughtered them all. ISO couldn't contain his excitement and blurted out, "Is that for real? If the Goblin King is that strong, then even that one wouldn't have a chance of walking out alive," he muttered. He threw his head back and let out a howl, grinning foolishly. Nona watched him with a mix of exasperation and pity, and then, suddenly, she burst into tears. In her despair, she thought, her father never came, the number of humans in this prison keeps shrinking, and maybe she's next. At least she should leave a will, if for nobody else, then for herself. She looked over at ISO, who was humming a little tune. She pleaded, "Mr. ISO, can I borrow your paper and pen? I want to write a will. Just tear off a page for me. I don't want to leave nothing behind." ISO replied immediately, "Nope, I'm not giving it to you." Nona opened her mouth to thank him, but paused, confused. Realizing she'd heard right, she snapped at him, "Why won't you give it to me?" ISO answered matter-of-factly, "Because the paper in this notebook is special. It's hard to tear out." "Nona, if you can't tear it out, can't you just give me the whole notebook?" ISO, "No way. This is my diary, my will. I can't just hand it to someone. Nona snapped back helplessly. We're all about to die. Do you really care about that much? Can you stop being so melodramatic? ISO coolly replied. Oh. Nona exploded. Oh yeah? Can you stop being so stingy? I'm not even reading your diary. Just give it. ISO refused again. No. Nona threatened. If you don't give it to me, I'll bite you. She leaned forward and fidgeted. Then both of them suddenly realized the moment and locked eyes. The silence turned awkward. Nona, defeated, whimpered through tears. Don't just stare. Help me. I'm stuck. I can't move. The scene made ISO laugh despite himself. He was about to step forward to help when, from outside, came a thunderous clanging. ISO's face darkened instantly as the midnight bell tolled. The next second, the ceiling trembled, as if it might collapse at any moment. She's here, ISO thought, his stomach dropping. No matter where he was, the snail always showed up precisely at Sunday dawn, professionally punctual in claiming his life. It strode in, carrying the Goblin King's head, and slowly approached ISO. As always, its eyes were blank and emotionless. With a deafening crash, a hole was punched through the wall. The snail planted its scythe in both hands and loomed over the kneeling ISO, raising its weapon to strike. This time, it felt truly lethal. Nona, watching the scene, was convinced she was next and started sobbing uncontrollably. The move successfully drew the snail's attention. ISO saw the chance and knew the moment was now. He yanked a smoke bomb out of his pack and slammed it down at his feet. With a crooked grin, he said, "Sorry about this, Miss Snail. Guess you can't kill me this time. Maybe next round." From above, the snail glared at ISO, fleeing. Then it turned its rage on the Goblin King's severed head. With a vicious kick, she stomped it as if to crush it to dust. Meanwhile, outside the fortress, a pair of wide eyes locked on the gates. Mr. Conde suddenly barked at the mercenaries beside him. "You're mercenaries, right? Then why the hell haven't you attacked yet?" The leader puffed up his chest and replied self-righteously, "Report, Mr. Conde. First, don't panic. Second, also don't panic." Then he rattled on with a pile of useless words. Conde wasn't having it. He roared, "Cut the crap, damn it. Didn't you say you'd attack as soon as we arrived? I paid you so much money. Get moving already. Save my daughter." Just the thought of his daughter trapped overnight with filthy, dangerous goblins. What might happen was unbearable. The mercenaries, however, muttered inwardly, "She's been gone for half a month. Whatever was going to happen has already happened. If the money weren't so good, we'd never have let ourselves get tricked into this." Just then, a heavy sack of gold coins landed in front of them. Conde even waved his hand, signaling 2 sacks. From the high platform, the mercenary leader shouted with righteous bravado, "Brothers, charge! Slay the Goblin King." Yet even as the words left his mouth, his mind replayed what the villagers had said. "You actually took this job? That's suicide. No wonder. Outsiders tricked into it. Poor fools. Though I guess that explains the fat payout." Sweat dripped down his back. What is this place? Could the Goblin King here really be that unstoppable? But the gold was already taken. If they backed out now, their reputation would be ruined. Still, reputation meant nothing if you ended up dead. He clenched his teeth. Worst case, I run. Beside him, Mr. Conde was already raging. "Move it. Attack. It's the middle of the damn night. If we wait any longer, the sun will be up." The leader was just about to give the order when, from the cliffside castle, came a thunderous boom. A figure plummeted from above. Sliding down, it landed safely on the ground. ISO had barely landed, still wondering what to do next, when he suddenly realized he was surrounded on all sides. Before he could speak, Conde's eyes locked onto the figure draped over ISO's shoulders. He shouted in desperation, "Nona, my daughter!" Freshly landed, Nona slowly turned her head. The moment she saw her father, tears welled up, and she fainted straight away. Conde lunged forward, grabbing ISO by the collar and snarling, "You brat! What did you do to my daughter?" "I'll—" Before he could finish, a Goblin King's severed head dropped from above, spraying blood everywhere. ISO snapped, "Pathetic trash. I overestimated you." The entire crowd shuddered in fear. Instantly, Nona's father switched his tone, stepping up with a smile. "You're incredible to have slain the Goblin King. You brought blessings to us common folk." Then he leaned closer, muttering, "By the way, how's my daughters? But if it's nice, don't hold back, yeah." ISO froze on the spot, utterly dumbfounded by the remark. Soon after, the scene shifted to the Conde estate in Radiant City. Smack! ISO slammed the table, gritting his teeth. Why? Why won't that damn thing die already? Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! Infuriating. Outside the door, father and daughter pressed close, eavesdropping. Nona whispered, "What's wrong with Mr. ISO? He sounds furious." Her father pursed his lips, nodding sagely. This must be one of those quirks of a legendary figure. Nona blinked. Legendary figure? Why would you call Mr. ISO that? He waved her off. "Not here. Let's talk back in the room." Once seated, he set his teacup down and began, "Mr. ISO? At first, I thought he was just a strong fighter with no reputation. I even considered recruiting him. But good thing I was cautious. I sent men to gather intel, and what I found nearly scared me half to death." Nona gasped. "What? Mr. ISO is famous," Conde said, eyes shining. "Famous? That's an understatement. In Nanjing, he carries a resounding title. People call him the lone hero." Nona nearly choked. "What? That name is way too edgy." Her father waved off her doubt. "Don't scoff. Madame Gui's intel is never wrong. And ISO earned that title with his own strength." He leaned in with a mysterious tone. "Here's another secret. This isn't his first time pulling something like this. He's infiltrated demon dens before, and not just once. Alone, risking everything, just to wipe out the monsters that preyed on humanity. Such courage, such spirit. He even reminisced about his own glory days. That's true greatness." But Nona muttered under her breath. So that's why he was enjoying prison so much. Conde didn't even hear her, rambling on. "There are countless rumors about Mr. ISO, some true, some false. But the ones that overlap must be real. First, Mr. ISO always carries a notebook. Inside, he records every vile monster. Each time he kills one, he crosses out the name. Meanwhile, ISO was fuming silently. "Useless Goblin King, I thought you'd save me, and you couldn't even beat a snail." Second, he owns a mechanical glider. After every victory, he uses it to retreat swiftly, hiding his fame. ISO patted the glider fondly. "You're the real MVP of running away. Without you, that snail would have killed me 1,000 times over." Third, plenty of people happened to witness his battles, and they all heard him shouting, "Help! Somebody help!" Nona tilted her head in confusion. Why would he be yelling that? Her father let out a hum, dangling the suspense before continuing. At first, nobody understood. But later, when they saw the blood-soaked battlefields, it all became clear. Mr. ISO didn't want to drown in endless killing. He longed for love and peace, even while fighting for justice. Deep down, he wished someone would rescue him. Meanwhile, ISO lay slumped over the desk, screaming in his mind, "Save me! Somebody save me! Please, just kill her for me! I'm begging you." Nona, successfully brainwashed by her father's words, felt deeply moved. Her father pressed on. "Fourth, and what I respect the most, even Mr. ISO himself doesn't like battle. In fact, he despises it. After every bloody fight, he feels unbearably exhausted. Yet he almost never rests. He always ends the fight quickly, only to dive straight into the next one, saving more lives. That is the lone hero. As long as demons exist, he'll stand at the front, never stopping." But at that very moment, ISO lay sprawled on the sofa in despair. Inside, he howled, "Why does she always show up on schedule to kill me? Just let me rest for once. Even public holidays aren't spared. That's too much." Her father's speech reached its climax. "That is our great Mr. ISO. You are my God." Nona trembled as she listened. Stammering, she said, "Father, he's too amazing. A man is great. No, I must marry him. Her words hit her father like a thunderbolt. Wait, what the hell? After all, what kind of man could make a noble's daughter serve tea and water, obey without complaint, refuse to marry anyone else, and even rush over just to keep him company when he was alone? That was exactly how ISO was treated. To please him, Nona brewed fresh coffee, baked cakes, simmered chicken soup, and even suggested playing games with him. If it were you, wouldn't you rush home early to such a perfect, gentle girlfriend? But ISO wasn't moved. He only found it noisy. His mind was full of strategies against the snail, so he rejected her one by one, even snapping, "Don't you have anything better to do?" Then he muttered, "Forget it. I'll just go out for a walk." He turned and told her, "I'm going out for a walk." But everyone knows, when you're in love, your brain doesn't work right. Nona instantly translated that as a date. Her heart bloomed with joy. She was ready to go at any moment. She followed ISO obediently. Her thoughts raced. I never imagined we'd get to the dating stage this quickly. Ladies looking for love, pay attention. Dating tip number 1, location and initiative. As we all know, men are lazy creatures. If they don't have a destination in mind, that's your chance. Take the initiative to suggest a place, and you not only set the location, but also make it feel like he's making the choice. 2 birds with 1 stone. Nona chuckled to herself, laying down her perfect trap. Acting casual, she asked, "Mr. ISO, where would you like to go?" But to her shock, ISO answered firmly, "The alchemy workshop." Nona froze as if struck by lightning. This wasn't in the script at all. Stunned, she realized they were already standing at the workshop. Yet ever resilient, Nona pressed close and introduced cheerfully, "This is the biggest and finest alchemy workshop in Radiant City." The clerk saw new customers walk in and asked, "What can I do for you?" ISO pulled a blueprint from his pocket and handed it over. "I need a mechanical puppet built." To his surprise, the clerk turned him down immediately. Nona smirked to herself. Perfect chance. I can't believe Mr. ISO would make such a rookie mistake. Mechanical puppets are something any common craftsman can handle. For a noble alchemist to accept such work, that would be lowering their status. As one of the workshop's major shareholders, she thought it was her time to step in. But before she could act, ISO casually dumped a heavy bag of gold coins on the counter. Nona nearly screamed. Oh no, doesn't he know? Throwing money at a proud alchemist is like trampling on their dignity. This is bad, really bad. The clerk's temper flared, but ISO doubled down and tossed another bag. The clerk snapped. "You're insulting my honor." ISO slammed down several more bags in quick succession. Bang, bang, bang. Gold piled up on the counter. The clerk's eyes glazed over, drowning in the glittering mountain. Another alchemist beside him slapped the table, snapping him out of it. "Enough. Esteemed guest, I'll take this job myself." Nona was dumbstruck, utterly shaken by the sheer power of money. Soon the workshop bustled with activity. ISO watched them work and asked, "How's that glider puppet holding up?" The clerk inspected it carefully and muttered, "This piece is incredibly refined. Not the work of a common craftsman. Just need to reset and it'll be good as new." ISO nodded. "Sharp eye. This wasn't made by a craftsman, but by an alchemist." He paused. "Goes by the name Sturl, I think." The clerk froze. His voice trembled. "Don't tell me. You mean Sturl Jarrus? The most renowned alchemist in the entire kingdom. A living legend whose name everyone knew. But how could Master Sturl ever build something as lowly as a mechanical puppet?" ISO shrugged. "At first he refused, until I filled his whole workshop with gold. Still, among all the alchemists I've hired, he charged me the least." The words barely left his mouth before. The clerk felt his pride shatter like glass. Deflated, he turned away and worked in silence. Before long, a brand new glider puppet stood before ISO. Sleek and clever in design, but with one catch. It was strictly one-time use. After a single flight, it needed repairs. The clerk swore with pride, "My repairs never fail. As long as you don't use it, it'll never break." ISO ignored him and pressed the switch. A stone statue appeared beside him in an instant. ISO turned to it, gave a firm nod, and even raised a thumbs up. That was fast. I was just testing you. Great job. Then he added, but you'll need to fix it again. I'll pay the repair fee twice. The clerk opened his mouth to curse, but those last words smothered his anger like water on fire. Arms crossed, he sniffed, that'll cost extra. ISO nodded along. Sure. Getting it done this fast is impressive. Flattery worked wonders. The clerk puffed out his chest. Of course, my family's been craftsmen for generations. I grew up playing with things like this. It's second nature. ISO mused the guy really had skill. In that case, make me an alchemy device that can restrain someone's movements. The clerk's eyes lit up instantly. He rushed forward, pitching eagerly. If you want restraints, I strongly recommend the hexagram seal, our shop's flagship product. Even the Radiant City Defense Corps use it. Its binding power is unmatched. It can hold down giants from the northern wastes. ISO pictured it for a moment, then sighed. Only strong enough to hold a giant? That won't cut it. The clerk quickly suggested. Then how about Ophir's shackles? A magical restraint that adjusts to the target's mana. The capital uses it to bind the worst death row criminals. ISO frowned and muttered, oh, that one? I've already snapped through plenty of those. No problem. We also carry Eridon's binding suit. Demon's thorns. Strong enough to restrain even a dragon. A Zera muzzle. It even held down the goblin key. ISO cut him off, waving his hand. Stop. Don't mention him. Gives me a headache. The clerk scowled. Are you just here to mess with me? ISO shrugged. None of these work. Stop with the flashy gimmicks. I want something simple and brutal. Grinding his teeth, the clerk snapped. Simple? Then go with slime gel. Fits you perfectly. ISO's eyes lit up. Slime gel. The clerk explained, yeah, it's basically a device that shoots out slime. Then he froze mid-sentence. Wait, you're not seriously asking for that, are you? Moments later, ISO sketched out a blueprint with just a few strokes. The master craftsman took one look and stood there, dumbfounded. Another clerk leaned over and gasped. Is this a stick figure drawing? How the hell are we supposed to build this? The master hesitated. True, but look at the money he's offering. It's way too much. I can't just walk away. Scene shift. The Adventurers Guild was packed that morning, every pair of eyes glued to the notice board. A single slime could now be exchanged for 1 gold coin. In the next instant, weapons were raised in unison as crowds charged toward the plains outside the city. Roaring, die slimes. We've had enough of you. Time to rid the world of pests. Charge. Meanwhile, back at the Conde estate, Nona hurried through her breakfast. She stood up and called over her shoulder. I'm heading to the alchemy workshop. Don't bother saving lunch for me. Conde exchanged a helpless glance with his butler. The butler murmured, the young lady's getting closer and closer to Lord ISO. But it's no surprise. After all, he's a hero. Conde frowned and muttered, hero. If a hero dies, all that's left is memory. That won't do. ISO probably doesn't have much money either. If it comes to wandering aimlessly, that's unacceptable. Go fetch some gold. The butler immediately nodded. Understood, I'll get it right away. Then he muttered under his breath, or maybe hire an assassin to take ISO out. The words hung in the air as Conde and the butler locked eyes, the room sinking into dead silence. Conde slammed the table in fury. The money is to drive ISO away from my daughter. That guy couldn't even handle the Goblin King. You think hiring an assassin will help? With that, he walked in carrying 2 heavy sacks of gold. But the moment he stepped inside, he froze. Slimes filled the entire room. For a second, he thought he'd gone to the wrong place. Just then, a cart loaded with slimes rumbled past. As soon as it stopped, people swarmed to unload, shouting, the slimes in the western suburbs are wiped out. Guess we'll have to bring in more from elsewhere. Conde nearly dropped his jaw at the sight, only to see ISO hauling in a whole cart of gold, shouting, I brought the money for everyone. No rushing, line up. 1 bucket per person. Nona stared at her father and asked, why are you here? And why are you carrying 2 bags of money? With a casual air, Conde replied, Heard you're falling in love, so I came to give you some money. Nona, remember this. We may be poor, but we must always have pride. Nona paused, recalling her days in the workshop. Staying by Iso's side every day, that should count as prideful enough, right? Except ISO was always glued to the clerks. But finally, today wasn't about the workshop. The clerk couldn't interfere now. Her chance to be alone with ISO had come. She pushed the door open, face full of excitement. Only to be startled, ISO lay motionless on his seat. She rushed forward, voice full of worry. Are you all right? If something's troubling you, you can tell me. I'm really worried about you. ISO answered weakly. It's nothing. I was just thinking. Before he could finish, the door burst open. Lord ISO, the slime mucus weapon is ready. It was the clerk. ISO sprang up as if reborn. Perfect. I'll go right away. The clerk added kindly, by the way, isn't Miss Nona coming along too? But a sudden wave of killing intent swept the room. Forcing a smile, Nona replied, Of course I'm going. At the alchemy workshop, a booming voice introduced the invention. This one-of-a-kind weapon unleashes a jet as powerful as a rock dragon, with a range of dozens of meters. It's forged from the concentrated essence of every slime in the western suburbs. Its adhesion strengthened 100-fold. I call it the breath of green, and it's all thanks to you, Lord ISO, for making this masterpiece possible. The alchemists below clapped and cheered, while one clerk muttered, Seriously? It's just a water gun. Talk about overselling it. On stage, ISO studied the weapon in his hands and said slowly, This weapon is absolutely perfect. Exactly what I wanted. Yet inside, he sneered, Damn snail. This Sunday will be your doom. Saturday came, and the valley echoed with thunderous roars. Tomorrow is the Lantern Festival. That's when Glimmer City's defenses are weakest. We'll show the humans. The giants have returned. The warriors' cries shook the sky. But one giant scratched his head. Weird, where did all the slimes go? I was hoping to snack on a couple. Lantern Festival? What's that? ISO set down his pen and asked. Nona explained with excitement. It's Glimmer City's most unique festival. Lord ISO, you're so lucky. Your first time here and you get to see it. ISO sighed. Lucky, huh? Didn't think that word would ever apply to me. So when exactly is this festival? Nona quickly answered. This Sunday. ISO froze, the terrifying gaze of that monstrous snail flashing in his mind. On the Lantern Festival, Glimmer City had a tradition of releasing sky lanterns. Hundreds of glowing lanterns would drift into the night sky, lighting up the whole city. A folk tale said that if you made a wish under the lanterns, it would come true. ISO, however, pictured the snail charging in with a scythe. Good evening, ISO. No matter where you run, I'll find you. I'll be with you every single Sunday. Meanwhile, Nona daydreamed about the food stalls that only appeared during the festival. Rare treats you couldn't find the rest of the year. Especially the legendary meatballs of love, sold only on that day. ISO's vision twisted instead. Eat it while it's hot, because this will be your last Lantern Festival. No, you won't even have tomorrow. The thought alone made them shiver. They couldn't keep imagining it. Nona leaned on the table, blushing, about to speak, when the door slammed open. Lord ISO, are you here? The clerk froze. Nona's face radiated murderous intent, as if one more word would mean his death. He quickly shut the door. Ah, ISO's not here then. I'll be going. Once he left, Nona instantly changed expression, smiling sweetly. Then let's spend this wonderful Lantern Festival together. Sunday arrived. The streets were bursting with crowds, laughter, and music. Amid it all, ISO shouted, mouth full, These meatballs are amazing. Boss, another skewer. Nona muttered, Unbelievable, that's already the 10th one. ISO added, And they're actually real beef. No fillers at all. The vendor chuckled. A young man who can eat 10 skewers in a row. Impressive. Since you love them so much, take this. It's a prize only for those who finish 10 skewers. ISO accepted. It was a bracelet made of meatball charms. He glanced at Nona, and her heart pounded. Is he giving this to me? Instead, ISO raised a thumb to the air and said, "Shout out to all my fans. Smash that like and follow button." Nona froze, then screamed in despair, "Boss, I want 10 skewers too. I need that bracelet." The boss looked troubled. "Sorry, miss. My wife only made 2. The other one's already been taken by another girl." Nona's mind blanked. By another girl? That meant somewhere in this city, a girl was wearing the same bracelet as ISO. Tears burst out as she cried, "Boss, more meatballs." ISO, oblivious, said cheerfully, "Oh, you want some too? They really are delicious." Nona wiped her tears and shouted, "And 2 bottles of beer." A loud hiccup later, she was already swaying from a booze. ISO looked at her with genuine respect. "You all right?" She staggered, waving her arms. "I'm fine. Totally fine. Just wait till midnight. There'll be fireworks everywhere." "I can't wait." Right then, a loud whoosh sounded overhead, and fireworks exploded across the sky. Nona sobered instantly, eyes sparkling. "Look, it's starting." ISO gazed at the dazzling bursts of color, whispering, "Beautiful." For the first time since coming to this world, he actually felt relaxed. Nona, lost in her own memories, said softly, "Lord ISO, I come every year to watch the fireworks. But Father is always too busy, so I watched alone. This year is different. It's my first time sharing the Lantern Festival with someone. Lord ISO, being with you makes me truly happy." ISO looked at her, guilt gnawing at his heart. "I'm sorry," Nona whispered nervously. "It's almost midnight. Lord ISO, we need to leave." Suddenly, a massive figure flew down from afar, slamming into the ground with a thunderous crash and carving out a crater. A city guard screamed, "Giants! The giants are invading the city." The crowd, joyous only a heartbeat ago, broke into panic, scattering in every direction. Nona's eyes darted around in fear. She cried out, "Lord ISO, let's run." But when she turned back, ISO was already gone. At that moment, the great bell of the tower struck midnight. Each toll echoed alongside the sharp clack-clack of high heels. The snail emerged slowly before ISO. He had been waiting for this. But when he lifted his head, he froze in shock. On the snail's wrist dangled a bracelet of meatball charms. ISO glanced at his own wrist, same design, no mistake. He remembered the vendor's words. Only 2 existed, the other taken by a girl. ISO gaped. "A girl? You count as a girl." He pointed and shouted, "Tell me the truth. Did you snatch that bracelet from some poor girl?" "That's evil." The snail ignored him, swinging her massive scythe straight down. ISO lifted his weapon, Breath of Green. With a roar, a torrent of slime blasted forth, engulfing the snail completely. Meanwhile, Nona stumbled through the panicked crowd, gasping for air. A rushing stranger collided with her, sending her tumbling, her dress tearing open with a loud rip. Her face smacked against the hard ground. Trembling, she pushed herself up, tears spilling as she thought, "He saved me from that horrible prison. So why abandon me now? Is it because I'm not worthy of him? Men really are rotten liars," she cursed, ripping off the torn hem. Then she kicked off her heels and rose unsteadily. A new fire burned in her heart. "Nona, from now on you can only rely on yourself. I will not die here. ISO, you'd better watch me." Elsewhere, ISO panted hard, his slime canisters already drained. He studied the massive cocoon in front of him. No air inside. Minutes passed with no movement. That could only mean one thing. The damn snail was finally. ISO laughed wildly at the sky. "Finally, snail, you've fallen to me at last." He roared, veins bulging. "Do you know what I've endured? You heartless monster. Every single Sunday, you came to kill me on the dot. Do you know how much I've suffered?" But ISO didn't see. The snail was slowly breaking free from the other side. He kept taunting, "You don't understand how much my green breath is worth. Move if you can. Come on. Weren't you here to kill me? I'm right here. What can you do about it?" Then, the dreaded clack-clack of high heels echoed again. ISO's breath hitched cold in his chest. He spun his head. There she was. The snail. His blood ran cold. In a flash, he bolted, shrieking curses at the top of his lungs. Nona was running when the people ahead suddenly stopped. She crashed straight into them. The crowd recoiled in horror. Lying before them were a group of giants. The giant at the front sneered. "Where do you think you're going, humans? Your lord already ran off with the money and soldiers." The giant chief barked, "Take the kids back to eat. Any adult who resists gets killed." With that, the giants began to close in on the crowd. Then a child's cry pierced the air, instantly drawing the giants' attention. A woman clutched her child and screamed for help, only to be met with indifferent stares. In a desperate moment, Nona stepped forward from the mob and shouted, "Stop! Let that child go." The giant plucked at his ear as if he misheard. Coldly he countered, "Do you even realize what you're saying? Why should I let go of that child?" Nona shouted back, furious, "Take what you want, just don't kill innocent people." Before she could finish, a giant grabbed her and laughed. "You're exactly what we want. Ha ha ha." He leered at her. "Pretty girls like you, if you fall into our hands, do you know what'll happen? I'll teach you a lesson. Get you used to it." Another hand reached for Nona's dress. The fabric tore with a ripping sound. As Nona screamed in despair, a cannonball struck the giant's forehead, protecting her. The rescuers were Nona's father, Conde, and the clerk. Conde comforted his weeping daughter. "Don't cry, don't cry." The mercenaries ran at the sight of giants. "Thankfully, I found you." The clerk frowned. "Miss, pull yourself together. The Lord and his soldiers abandoned the city. We're on our own now." Suddenly, an enraged roar filled the air. "You damned humans. None of you live tonight." Conde snatched up his sword and planted himself in front of Nona, eyes blazing. "Even if I must risk these old bones, no one will lay a finger on my daughter." The next moment, the giant grabbed Conde in one hand. "Fine, I'll tear those old bones apart right now." Conde's expression changed in an instant. He forced a pleading tone. "Big brother, have mercy. Wasn't it just bluster earlier? Let's save face." Seeing her father seized, Nona grabbed a fallen sword and lunged, shouting, "Let my father go. I'll cut you down with one strike, you bastard." Conde panicked. "Nona, are you crazy? Don't risk it. Run with the clerk." The giant snorted, amused. "You think you can kill me with one swing? Think you're some hero? Fine, let's play then." The clerk raised his small cannon and shouted, "Miss, I'll back you up." Hearing that, Nona gritted her teeth, kicked off hard, and charged the giant. D. She swung her sword high and rushed forward, only to lose her balance and crash to the ground. The giant roared with laughter. "What is this? The legendary New Year sword technique." He picked the sword off the ground and handed it back mockingly. "I'll give you another chance." He sneered. "Don't worry, I'll take you with me. You're too much fun to waste." The clerk couldn't hold back anymore. Boom, he fired a shot. Gritting his teeth, he shouted, "Don't forget, I'm still here." But the blast barely scratched the giant. With a casual swipe, the giant swatted him away. The clerk spun 720 degrees through the air, slammed into a wall, and collapsed motionless. The giant flexed his fist, glaring at the humans. "Pathetic trash. I'm bored now. Brothers, kill them all." Suddenly his eyes lit up. "Wait, I've got a better idea. Let's see who can kill the most." The other giants cheered. "Yeah, let's do it," eager for the slaughter to begin. Just then, goblins heard frantic footsteps and a furious voice screaming from afar. "Bastards, get out of my way." "Yeah, I'm talking to you, move." As the shouting continued, a breath of green weapon was hurled forward. Nona's heart skipped. Hearing that familiar voice, she rushed toward it. "It's Lord ISO." The giants laughed. Huh, did the human get lost while running away? But in a flash, their bodies split clean in half. Nona threw herself into ISO's arms, tears streaming. "Lord ISO, I knew you'd come save me." The crowd quickly gathered, cheering, "It's Lord ISO. He killed the giants. Amazing. Took them all out in one move. Truly a hero." ISO, however, cursed in his heart as the mob swarmed him. Trapped in the middle, he thought bitterly, "Great. This time I'm really done for." Worse still, the snail, boosted by slime mucus, was faster than ever, closing the gap with terrifying speed. ISO dashed toward a towering city wall. His eyes lit up with glee. Heaven's on my side. Suddenly, wings sprouted from his boots. With a powerful kick, he soared up the wall. Let's see you chase me now. After climbing the wall, ISO felt smug, proud of his clever escape. But when he glanced back, a voice cursed from below. Oh, crap. He froze. How could he forget? The snail could climb walls. So ISO kept running, only to circle back into the crowd, where he was immediately surrounded. People shouted with tears of gratitude. Lord ISO, I knew you'd come to save us. Kid, no wonder you could down 10 meatball skewers at my shop. Hero, thank you. Because of you, the seasons feel warm again. ISO wanted to cry. He screamed, what are you all talking about? Run, or we'll all get smashed together. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw the snail slowly approaching. This is it, he thought. This time I'm really dead. But the snail's gaze drifted to the meatball vendor clutching his shirt in the crowd. Seeing the bracelet, smelling the aroma, his hand gripping the scythe trembled. After a brief struggle, thoughts of meatballs filled his head. He lowered the scythe and muttered, so tasty, next time for sure. When ISO looked again, the snail had vanished. He exhaled in disbelief. Gone? Just like that? I get to live again? Damn, my luck's insane. Still, he couldn't figure out why. In his dreams, the roar of a dragon-like beast echoed. The snail, chasing him like a twisted admirer. ISO jolted awake, gasping. Just a dream, thank God. Any longer, and I might have thrown myself into her arms. Nona rushed to his side, tears streaming. Lord ISO, you're finally awake. Forgive me. I shouldn't have doubted you would run away. ISO blinked, completely lost. Nona rambled on, recounting everything that had happened. He just nodded absent-mindedly, barely listening. He clutched his head in frustration. So the giant's killed by the snail? Everyone thinks it was me? Once again, her handiwork turns into my credit. Damn it, another failure. His eyes fell on a sack nearby, and a meatball bracelet glinting on the snail's hand. ISO shot to his feet. Nona asked in confusion, where are you going? He replied as he walked off. There's something I must confirm. It's important. You've looked after me long enough. Stay home and rest. Nona froze, heart pounding. Oh my, he's worried about me. Her face lit up, convinced. Yes, that must be it. Nona threw herself onto the bed, still carrying ISO's scent, rolling across the sheets as wild fantasies filled her mind. Caring means approval. Approval means acceptance. And acceptance means marriage. ISO, you're way too bold. Our child's name will be Ibu. She then reassured herself. As his future wife, keeping track of his whereabouts isn't stalking at all. Following his lingering scent, she quickly tracked him down. At that moment, ISO had already arrived at the meatball shop. The owner greeted him respectfully. Lord ISO, are you asking about the girl who took the other meatball bracelet that day? She was here today, just half an hour ago. ISO's eyes flickered with a trace of realization. Half an hour ago, huh? That meant she wasn't some NPC who respawned every Sunday. She was a real person, alive in this world. The shopkeeper explained while pulling something out of his pocket. She really loves her meatballs. I noticed her bracelet was all dirty today, so I made her a new one. He handed ISO the old bracelet. Carved into it was a single name, Vera. ISO thought grimly. If she's human and not some scripted refresh, then maybe I can escape just by running far enough. But without planes or trains in this world, where could I possibly go? Suddenly, Nona popped out of nowhere and ordered cheerfully, one of the newest meatball specials, please. She put on a fake look of surprise. Oh my, Lord ISO, what a coincidence. Isn't this destiny? Heaven's arrangement. ISO didn't even glance at her, lost in thought. Even if I run, where would I go? What's the hardest place to reach? Nona ate happily, thinking to herself, let me keep you company. ISO, you saved my life. Don't misunderstand. It's not like I like you or anything. Mid-bite, her vision blurred, her cheeks flushed crimson, and she nearly collapsed, as if fire were about to burst from her body. This is way too spicy, she cried. The shopkeeper grinned. Miss, that's our latest wasabi flavor. ISO pressed his temples, sighing inwardly. How does she keep tracking me down? This is driving me crazy. Just then, a loud clang echoed from the distance. ISO looked over to see two alchemists struggling to carry a giant's armor. A single slash mark could be seen faintly on the plating, though it hadn't penetrated. ISO immediately stepped forward to inspect it. The two alchemists bowed respectfully. Thanks to you, ISO, we were spared disaster. Without your help, we all would have been done for. Running his fingers across the scar, ISO's gaze sharpened. It took a direct strike from that monster and didn't break. What on earth is this armor made of? Scene cut to the alchemy workshop. The elderly alchemist, wise and worldly, immediately identified the metal, Northland cold iron. Any giant wearing it had to be at least a lieutenant. He explained that this cold iron supposedly comes from the thousand-year snow peaks and ranks among the hardest materials in the world. The younger alchemists erupted in awe and fawning excitement. ISO stroked the Northland cold iron, a bittersweet tear in the corner of his eye, like meeting a lost soulmate. Nona watched and raised an eyebrow. Really? Getting misty-eyed over a lump of metal. Men are weird, she mused. ISO slapped the alchemist on the shoulder and announced grandly, "Name your price." "I'm very interested in this." The alchemists exchanged looks and fell silent. Then a senior master stepped forward, helpless. "Lord ISO, it's not that we don't want to, but Northland Cold Iron's forging process is extraordinarily unique. It's one of the world's hardest substances. We simply can't replicate it. Besides, it's a treasured relic of the giants. It won't be sold on a whim." ISO fell quiet at that. He then grabbed the iron lump, hugged it to his chest, and burst into tears, pounding it while crying, "If I could make armor from this, I'd be invincible." The master added a sobering note. "Cold iron isn't flawless. Its fatal flaw is weight. It's unbearably heavy and a nightmare to transport." That comment sparked something in ISO, sudden clarity and inspiration. He eyed the huge iron cage tucked in the corner. A plan flashed vividly across his mind. "That's it. I'm going to the north. You all come with me. We'll forge a frost iron prison cage there. Money is no object." The alchemists didn't even hesitate. They recoiled and shouted, "No, we won't go. The giants will mash us into meat paste and eat us with bread. Please reconsider, Lord ISO." At that moment, Nona suddenly had an idea. If everyone's refusing, then if I step up, she thought. Her brain immediately filled with romantic daydreams. Marriage, children, domestic bliss. Only you could be my lifelong partner. Let's get married. Imagine the rest. Meanwhile, the master warned ISO. Giants of the north only enslave and hate humans. They're far more ferocious than those lesser giants we saw. ISO flashed a grin. If we make cold iron armor for them, isn't that a win-win? Bonus all around. The master continued, and the north is far from Glimmer City. The trip will be brutal. Without massive logistics, you'd freeze to death en route. A vision formed in ISO's head. Done. It's settled. Triple benefit. His eyes glittered as he cheered. I must go. Who's coming with me? The next second, the alchemist teleported back in a panic, leaving only the clerk standing dumbfounded. His name was Odyssey. ISO lunged forward and gripped Odyssey's hand, elated and grateful. "I knew you were one of my kind." He clapped Odyssey on the shoulder, laughing. "My comrade. Henceforth we're ants on the same rope." Odyssey panicked, whipping his head toward his master. "No, I signed an apprentice contract. I can't leave the workshop, right, master?" But his master was already pressing his fingerprint on a transfer contract, gold coins piled high around him. Once done, he handed it straight to ISO. "He's yours now." The scene was like haggling at a street market. "Take it, fresh off the stall." ISO dragged Odyssey toward the door. Odyssey wailed, clawing at the threshold like his life depended on it. Nona murmured softly, "Lord ISO, I'll talk it over with my father first. I'll be back soon." ISO's face stayed cold. "Don't force yourself." After she left, He crouched down beside Odyssey. You don't really have a choice. Don't worry, I'll pay you every month. Odyssey still clung on. I'm not that kind of man. Don't think you can buy me off. I won't follow you to die for nothing. ISO raised a thumb. One price, 1,000 gold a month. Odyssey shot up from ground. Knew you had good eyes. Soon, they reached the merchant guild. Odyssey muttered, why here? This place reeks of greedy merchants. ISO replied calmly, if we want to reach the Northlands before Sunday, their help is essential. Inside, a merchant was berating his staff. Useless. Profit on textiles has to hit 30%. How many times do I have to say it? Useless. Spotting ISO, his tone flipped instantly. Well, our hero who saved the people from fire and water. He hurried forward. I'm the guild master of the glorious Light City branch. Lord ISO, what brings you here? Inside, though, he was scheming. Word is this kid's loaded. Play it right, and I'll milk him dry. ISO cut straight to it. I need to reach the Northlands before Sunday. The guild master's smile stiffened. It's an honor you trust us, but that's impossible. ISO tossed a list onto the table. As long as this is prepared, it can be done. The guild master's gut twisted. All right, let me see. He unrolled the list, eyes bulging. 20 unicorns. He nearly choked. ISO waved it off. Yeah, for pulling the carriage. The guild master was speechless. Was this guy mocking him? Lord ISO, unicorns are extremely rare. Even the royal family has only 3, and they're sacred beasts for rituals. Ordinary people can't command them. ISO interrupted flatly. It's fine. I have money. The guild master almost coughed up blood. So he really is just a rich bumpkin, and I wasted all that courtesy. His tone cooled. Our guild has strict membership tiers. From where I stand, you're not qualified. ISO casually pulled out a red string. I know, a red string membership, right? How about one? That lets me request rare goods, doesn't it? The guild master nearly laughed. Only one? I thought at least 2. Rumors really exaggerate. His voice turned dismissive. Perhaps you don't understand. The more wealth stored, the higher the rank. 1 string. Well, Lord ISO, let's just say you have a sense of humor. Horses and donkeys that we can manage. Odyssey whispered at ISO's side. Seriously? You dragged me here for this? I'm embarrassed just standing next to you. ISO scratched his head, unbothered, as if he'd already forgotten about the membership tiers. Then he added casually, oh, right? I actually have plenty of these red strings, but I knitted them into a sweater. As if overcome by divine force, the guild master dropped to one knee, pounding his chest. Lord ISO's troubles are my troubles. Your command is my direction. I would walk through fire and blades for you. In the merchant guild, red strings were a mark of status. The more strings, the higher the rank. 1 string meant a local rich man. 3 strings marked the wealthiest of city. 10 strings? That was the fortune of the royal capital's richest elite. This was common belief. But that belief shattered today. Before them stood a man wearing a sweater knitted from red strings. Who in the world could possess such a thing? What kind of status must that represent? The guild master was lost for words, forcing a flattering smile. My lord, the orders have been sent. Do you have any other instructions? ISO slowly put on his coat, covering that plain-looking yet absurdly overpowering red sweater. We leave Wednesday morning. That's fine, right? The guild master's face froze. He rubbed his stiff cheeks, certain he had misheard. Swallowing hard, he muttered, Wednesday morning, only a day and a half from now. No matter how I look at it, that's impossible. ISO's brows drew together, his gaze sharp and displeased. Cold sweat poured down the guildmaster's face. On second thought, that's more than enough time. Please rest assured, by the day after tomorrow, everything will be ready. He hesitated, then added awkwardly, there's one more matter. The Snow Elf Guide is very special. That lady's status may complicate things. ISO cut him off with a casual wave. Don't worry, I know her. She'll come. Meanwhile, in a grand palace, noontime sunlight spilled through the glass, shining on Sherry's silver-white hair as she reviewed documents. The assistant who walked in froze at the sight. That graceful figure, flawless curves, porcelain skin, and exquisite features. She whispered to herself. Elegant, utterly elegant. Could there be any lord more perfect than this? At that moment, Sherry embodied elegance itself. Just months ago, Losai City had been plagued by raids from the lizard men of the southern swamp. Its so-called lord abandoned the people, fled with his guards, and left the city in despair. Sherry, an orphan raised by the townsfolk, stepped forward. To repay the city that raised her, she dared to negotiate with the lizard men alone. No one believed she could succeed. Everyone thought she would perish. Yet she returned in a flash, leaving the city in shock. The lizard men who had tormented Losai City for years vanished overnight, along with the entire swamp they came from. Lady Sherry had always insisted that someone else was responsible, but no one believed her. After all, who would save Losai City for no reason? What's more, when she returned, there was a red string tied around her wrist. Through that string, she had contacted merchants and secured a fortune in supplies to rebuild the city. That only convinced everyone further. It had to be her. And so, with the people's support, Lady Sherry became the new lord of Losai City. Her assistant snapped out of her thoughts and gently placed a cup of black tea at Sherry's side. Sherry accepted it, blew across the surface, and murmured softly, "For me to be the city lord, is that really right?" Even now, she felt as if she were living in a dream. The assistant quickly replied, "Of course it is. You always say it was that faceless stranger who saved us, but everyone knows you're just too modest. Otherwise, how could a man that good even exist?" At that exact moment, ISO sneezed loudly back in Radiant City. Sherry froze, turned toward the window, and her mind drifted back to a memory she would never forget. "Ah, little girl, you came alone to die? I'll roast you alive," the lizard man jeered. Suddenly, a frantic shout echoed from afar. "We're gonna die, we're gonna die." Behind the man came a young girl, scythe in hand, charging forward with a wide slash. But the swamp was slick. She slipped and lost her balance. Her scythe slammed down into the ground. In an instant, the marsh erupted like a volcano, hurling mud and lizard men skyward. The man collapsed right in front of Sherry, clutching a red string, gasping, "Get me out of here, take this." Sherry, utterly bewildered, could only nod. A city lord as radiant as she, yet asked to serve as a mere guide. The assistant glared at the letter in her hand, furious. Outrageous. A rich man wants to climb the northern mountains, so he demands you guide him, and he even dares to set the deadline. Tomorrow, in Radiant City? This ISO fellow. Just some rich brat, far too arrogant. Sherry, however, was not riled like her assistant. Instead, she asked calmly, "What was his name again?" The assistant glanced back at the letter, frowning. "It says ISO. He wants you to be his guide." Sherry gave a slight nod, stood up, and ordered her aide, "Prepare the carriage." The aide froze in shock, blurting, "Where to?" Sherry's tone was firm. "To be the guide, of course." Meanwhile, back in Radiant City, Condor had been restless for 2 days. On Monday afternoon, when his only daughter mentioned wanting to go to the Northlands, he was both shocked and furious, rejecting her outright. Nona pouted and snapped, "Why not?" Condor had already guessed her thoughts. "It must be because of Izo, right? That brat is heading north, and you want to tag along." Nona grew louder, shouting, "I just want to travel and see the world. Think of it as gaining experience, please." Condor pinched her cheek with a sigh. "My silly, love-struck daughter. Why throw yourself at someone so dangerous? No father would want his child walking into peril." But Nona insisted, "It won't be dangerous. There'll be plenty of people going along." Hearing that, Condor felt certain. In his eyes, Izo might have money, but he had no authority. There was no way he could assemble a team willing to march to their deaths, let alone a top-tier one. Impossible. His mood improved. Stroking his daughter's head, he smirked, "Fine. If that kid can gather the nation's very best adventurers, I'll let you go north." Nona lit up instantly, her eyes sparkling. "Thank you, father." Condor sneered inwardly. "Silly girl, don't blame me when this dream gets crushed." Suddenly, The butler burst through the door, shouting, "Master, come outside quickly. It's chaos on the main street." Down the grand avenue of Radiant City, a parade of unicorns was pulling carts in stately formation. Crowds of citizens gathered, gasping in awe. In the crowd, Condor stared in disbelief. This is insane. Behind the procession rolled an ornate carriage. Nona spotted Izo nearby and was about to greet him when the carriage door creaked open. Izo stepped forward, saying calmly, "Thank you for accepting the commission." Inside, Sherry's face lit up with excitement, while her aide glared at Izo with undisguised hostility. After so long apart, Sherry could no longer hold back. She hurried out of the carriage and exclaimed, "It's been too long, Lord Izo." But her heels betrayed her. She stumbled and fell straight into his arms, the two locked in a sweet embrace. From afar, Nona froze like stone, utterly stunned. The blow was too much. She fainted on the spot. In her dream, a tender voice whispered, "Nona, do you know who the cutest girl in the world is?" Who? Who? Don't tell me it's me." "Of course not. It's the flawless snow elf beauty, Sherry, the woman I love most." Screams erupted all around. "No, this can't be real. I was here first. Get in line. I object to this marriage." Nona's eyes snapped open, finding herself surrounded by worried faces. Condor rushed over, calling, "At last! You're awake, my daughter. You suddenly fainted. What happened?" Still dazed, Nona exhaled in relief. So it was just fainting from shock. It's only a dream. There's still a chance. She glanced at Sherry, then suddenly vanished with her secret art, space shift, reappearing right in front of Sherry. She thrust out her hand, feigning friendliness. "Hello, I'm Nona, Mr. Izo's best friend." Sherry politely extended her hand in return. "Hello, I'm Sherry, City Lord of Losai City." Nona gazed at Sherry in awe. Such dazzling radiance. A beauty like her, and she's even a city lord? Just as she was about to speak, a hand patted her shoulder. Turning around, she saw Izo. He grinned. "She'll be my guide to the Northlands. From now on, I'll be counting on her. By the way, why did you suddenly faint? Too excited, huh?" Nona's mind ran wild. A city lord abandoning her people to wander around? With her beauty and status, Izo will probably fall for her before they even reach the Northlands. "No, this can't go on. I have to confess." Finally gathering her courage, Nona shouted, "Lord Izo, I have something very important to tell you." She clenched her fists, her heart surging with determination. "This is the biggest decision of my life. I've thought about it for so long." "Move, Nona, move. This isn't the time to be shy. Say it. This is the showdown between me and her." She blurted, "I actually want to everyone else, a beautiful rich girl chasing after him so boldly. How could anyone turn that down?" With all her courage, Nona cried out, "I actually want to go to the Northlands with you." The air froze. What she wanted to say and what she actually said were completely different. Their eyes locked for a moment. Izo gave her a thumbs up. "Nice. We set out tomorrow morning." At noon on Wednesday, the convoy departed on schedule. Citizens of Radiant City lined the gates, sending them off with the highest respect. Everyone understood the dangers ahead, but also the meaning. If they succeeded, it would be a feat for the ages. And so, Izo left Radiant City, stepping onto the long road to the Northlands amidst the reluctant gazes of the crowd. Some even composed a poem in his honor. In storms and sorrow, as swordsmen lower their blades and mages close their eyes, it was you. You who turned the tide, the hero beneath the moon, the people's Izo. For 100 years, many had tried to enter the Northlands, but never with such a massive force. Izo brimmed with confidence. There was no way he'd die in the snow mountains. His only silly worry was that annoying snail might still be following. Then he laughed it off. Impossible. Relaxed, he discussed routes with Sherry. But not everyone in the convoy shared his joy. Nona's face was colder than the snow peaks, her icy expression enough to send chills down anyone's spine. She glared at Sherry, furious at how close she was to Izo. Yet after a moment, she curled up in defeat. But she's so beautiful and mature, a city lord no less. Compared to her, I'm just a spoiled rich girl. Odyssey, sitting beside her, stayed silent, not knowing how to console her. Then Nona suddenly turned to him. It's true she's better than me, right? Odyssey froze, then quickly nodded. I completely agree with you. Forced to, he told a harmless lie to save his own skin. Hearing his agreement, Nona instantly perked up. First of all, I have way more free time to stay by Lord Izo's side. A city lord won't have that luxury. Second, I already noticed Izo likes Lolis more. She's older, I'm younger, so I'm the perfect match. And third, I appear way more often. At the very least, he'll get used to seeing me. With that, my chances are sky high. Outside the carriage, Odyssey let out a long sigh. Dragged all the way to the Northlands, and now this circus? What a nightmare. As he rested his chin in his hand, pondering life, the carriage door creaked open. Izo stepped out slowly. Spotting Odyssey, he rushed over, slung an arm around his shoulder, and grinned. Hey buddy, we're about to hit the cold front. I've decided we're heading straight to the giant's territory called Good. He paused dramatically. But there's one issue. This expedition was put together in such a rush, we never decided who the manager should be. So who could possibly take the job? Odyssey rolled his eyes and fake coughed. With acting that bad, you really don't need the drama. He started, well, actually, before he could finish, Izo's hand clamped tightly onto his. It's you, Izo declared with fiery enthusiasm. You wanted this all along, right? From now on, you'll be the one to rally the troops, my dearest friend. In the end, Odyssey caved, on the condition that his contract be shortened by 5 years and his pay doubled. Izo even added another rule. He must count heads every day to make sure there weren't extra people in the group. Grumbling as he walked away, Odyssey muttered, extra people? We're lucky to have enough bodies as it is. Who in their right mind would follow you to that dump? Night soon fell. From the food cart came faint rustling noises. In the corner, a dim light flickered to life. The snail followed the scent, lamp in hand, inching toward the piles of meat. It let out audible gulps, completely unable to resist temptation. The snail had started eating meat. Back in Radiant City, giants once invaded, plundering everywhere in sight. In that chaos, a figure flashed past. Slash, slash, slash. Giants' bodies split apart, blood and flesh spraying everywhere. Hiding at the back, a survivor nicknamed Stray Hair watched in horror. Before he could react, people rushed forward, clinging to the figure, convinced he was their savior. A demon. Run for your lives, someone screamed. Meanwhile, in the Northlands, a giant who had escaped reported back. I'm no deserter. I barely made it out alive. That guy was insane. His eyes shot lightning. His mouth breathed fire. Strayhair's nonsense was taken at face value. The giant chieftain, who looked clever but wasn't, said solemnly, to survive a godlike foe, you're truly a warrior. The Goo tribe welcomes you. And so, Strayhair became a gate guard. Leaning lazily on the battlements, he muttered smugly, idiots. They bought my story with no questions asked. Still, I'm damn lucky. I never want to see that guy again in this lifetime. Just then, his eyes went wide. Through the falling snow, a long human convoy slowly rolled into view. Humans? A caravan here in the Northlands? Impossible. He rubbed his eyes and leaned forward for a better look. From a lavish carriage, a small window creaked open. A head slowly poked out. Even with just a fleeting glance, the giant froze. He would never mistake that face. It's him, the demon. He must have come to silence him. Panic surged through his chest. The terror from that night came rushing back. He bolted away, shouting at the top of his lungs, the demon's here. Notify the chieftain now. That's the value of a skilled guide. The convoy never strayed off course. No one froze to death, no one starved, and there were no avalanches. The dreaded Northland Mountains turned out to be far less terrifying than the legends claimed, just bitterly cold. All the obstacles people feared had been smashed apart by the sheer power of money. To the men who had braced for death, the journey felt almost unervingly smooth. By now, the caravan was nearing the giant tribe of good. Pulling his head back inside, ISO said calmly, "We're almost there." Beside him, Odyssey shivered under thick blankets, snapping, "Close the damn window already, it's freezing out here." "Just endure a little longer. We're almost at the destination," ISO replied casually. Odyssey, however, scowled with unease. "That's nothing to celebrate. Dealing with those monsters, we'll need to be extremely careful, or we won't even leave alive." ISO brushed it off with a relaxed grin. "Don't worry, nothing's going to happen." Yet the next instant, BEM, the unicorns charged straight through the front wall of the tribe. Scratching his head awkwardly, ISO muttered, "Sorry about that. Guess the unicorns got a little too worked up from the cold and rammed your wall." The air turned tense. The giants bristled with weapons, their chieftain growling, "Human, why have you come here?" ISO didn't flinch. Striding forward, he reached into his satchel. "Relax, my friends. I'm here to make a deal." But giants had never seen a human this brazen before. Usually, humans trembled before them, crushed under their aura. Yet this man looked utterly calm, as if they weren't worth a glance. And when he reached deeper into his bag, their minds flashed back to Tuff's story. Fear spread like wildfire. Giant stumbled back a few steps, brandishing weapons in panic. "Stay right there. Don't move. What's in your hand? Show us." ISO remained unfazed. After half a year of being hunted by the snail, dancing on the edge of death, such threats couldn't shake him. Still, their extreme reaction puzzled him. "I just want to trade." He accidentally took another step forward. The giants roared again. "Damn human. We said stop. Hand it over, whatever's in your hand." With a helpless sigh, ISO pulled it out. "It's apples. You people live on blood and rocks. You must be starving. I brought food and supplies. All I ask in return is a bit of cold iron." Northland cold iron, born from thousand-year-old glaciers, was the giant's sacred treasure. As ISO finished speaking, the chieftain's face darkened further and further. Just then, a shaggy giant roared, "This is madness. You brat, how dare you set your eyes on our clan's treasure? Even if you were a demon god, we would never agree. Cold iron is a gift from the heavens to the giants. How could we possibly trade it away?" ISO sighed helplessly, brushing the snow off his clothes. "Don't be so stubborn. Relax. I came with plenty of sincerity. It's not like I'm freeloading." Seeing words wouldn't get through, he snapped his fingers. Two massive carts appeared with a whoosh before the giant's eyes. He stepped forward, grabbed the handle, and grinned. "I brought plenty of money for you, all in here. Take a look." With that, he slowly pulled open the door. A flood of golden light burst out, like a roaring sea, drowning out the snowy white around them. Reflected in the sun, it was blinding, pouring out like water through a broken dam, engulfing everything in an instant. The gates of the Good tribe swung wide open. Two giants even rolled out a red carpet. In the center stood a huge table, stacked with mouth-watering dishes and fine wine. Crisp clinks of glasses echoed in the air. The giant chieftain raised his voice with heroic pride. "From this day forth, humans and giants shall share life and death, stand together through hardship. Cheers." The giants below erupted in cheers, celebrating this so-called historic moment. But one giant, Scruff, wasn't there. Once the thought of running hit him, he couldn't stop. Glancing around and seeing no one paying attention, he slinked away. Relying on his sharp nose, he quickly found the human supply wagon. Insane, they're all insane. That stupid chief trading with the demon, doomed, all doomed. I'll just steal some food and run. But when Scruff cracked the door open, he froze. Inside sat a cloaked human woman in black, casually chewing on a piece of meat. Their eyes locked. His dull brain spun hard, then lit up. "A woman? Looks weak. Snatch her, sell her to slavers, and I'll have my travel money." He sneered. "Don't blame me for being cruel." His hand shot out toward her. The snail tilted her head slightly, eyes flashing razor sharp. A heartbeat later, Scruff felt the world spin. His body was torn apart, limbs scattering across the snow. A mere human, commanding power greater than the giants themselves. Turns out, money really could bend the world. Snow swirled atop the mountain as ISO and Odyssey watched the giants bustling below. Their worldview had been smashed so many times these days that numbness was all that remained. Odyssey muttered, exasperated, "So you dragged us all the way here just to watch giants build a giant cage?" ISO scoffed. "Guess you still don't get me. I'm just running from death itself." Odyssey glared. "Speak normal. Death is like the wind, always by my side." ISO answered, dead serious. Odyssey's face twisted with disgust. He turned away with a cold snort. "Ever since that damn slime gun, I knew you weren't right in the head." Meanwhile, Nona watched from afar, grumbling under her breath. "What is this? Two guys glued together every day, hugging again. And me? Why won't he hug me?" Her thoughts were interrupted as Shelley's gentle voice chimed in. "Miss Nona, what are you doing?" Nona turned, staring at the silver-haired beauty beside her. Her jaw nearly cracked from clenching. Forcing herself calm, she muttered, "Just looking at the scenery." Shelley sat gracefully by her side. Nona stiffened, then asked, "You're a city lord. Why abandon your duties to come all the way out here? For what?" Shelley's gem-like eyes glimmered deep and captivating. She replied with complete sincerity, "Because our fates have long been entwined. I owe him. Whenever he needs me, wherever he is, I will always come to his side." Nona's lips twitched. She felt as if her body had raised a shield, rejecting this woman's very presence. Turning away, she coldly muttered, "Fine. Good for you." Cut to the wagon master, pale with unease. "When I checked supplies earlier, I found half a corpse buried in the snow. And we're short a whole month's worth of food." Hearing that, ISO's mind jumped to one suspect. That damn thing, riding my wagon, chasing me nonstop, now even eating my rice? Is this human depravity or moral collapse? So she devoured a wagon of food and chopped a giant. So what? I guess I'll just have to forgive her. But the dead giant still needed an answer. The chieftain scowled. "Human, I want to know why Scruff died near your caravan." "What did you do, ISO?" ISO froze, unsure how to reply. Odyssey cut in, voice firm. "Hold on. Shouldn't we be the ones asking you? Why did a giant sneak into our supply wagon? And why is so much food missing? Only giants could eat that much. And look at those wounds. They're nothing humans could inflict. More likely some massive beast. To accuse us without proof. Is this how you plan to wreck the fragile trust we've built? We've been in plain sight this whole time. So maybe go back and hunt down your traitors. Or check if some beast slipped inside your walls." His fierce counterattack left the giants speechless. They scattered, pretending nothing had happened. ISO looked at him with pure admiration. Amazing, but Odyssey, sharp as ever, knew better. Things weren't that simple. He remembered ISO's earlier warning about an extra person. Pointing at him, he demanded, "You know the truth. Whatever killed that giant, it wasn't any beast." Just as ISO was about to reveal the truth, Odyssey's sharp little brain began to race. A scene flashed in his mind, being chased by death itself. Could that legend actually be true? Long ago, an enraged dark god, dissatisfied with human tribute, vowed to wipe out an entire village. At that moment, a warrior stood tall and shouted, "Let the curse fall on me. Let the demons hunt me alone." And so the curse descended upon him. From that day on, he bore a lifelong burden, forever fleeing, forever hunted. Sadly, he died not long after. Odyssey's tone shifted. When he looked at ISO now, there was no scorn, only reverence. Excited, he declared, "So you carry that curse too?" He was a hero who saved the world, sacrificed himself, and was cursed, forever hunted on a path of no return. But was that really the truth? Being hunted, yes, but saving the world? That was someone else. Under Odyssey's wild deduction, ISO nearly collapsed inside, torn apart. Should he reveal the truth? Raised on these strange tales, would shattering them now only wound his friend? The choice felt Seeing ISO's calm expression, Odyssey grew even more certain. He thumped his chest, pointed at him like a sworn brother, and vowed, "I get it. Don't worry. I'll never let you die. ISO's lips twitched. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. With the mood reaching a boiling point, he found himself strangely at a loss. Meanwhile, beneath the storm, in just a day and a half, a massive cage forged from cold iron had been completed. The giant chieftain stood before the colossal construct, frowning deeply. What was this thing for? And how could they even move it? A nearby giant scratched his head and muttered, "Didn't he say it'd come in handy today? Something about the time of reckoning has come?" The chieftain's eyes went wide. Something's wrong. This cage, it's meant for us. Damn humans. So it really is revenge. This whole thing is a trap. Meanwhile, Nona finally found Izo, smiling as she asked, "Why are you sitting here alone?" Behind that smile, though, she was fuming. "I've been looking for you forever. How long are you going to ignore me? You don't move, I don't move? Fine." But Iso sat there with a dark face, speaking slowly. "There's a woman who's been haunting me for so long. Like a ghost. She just won't leave me alone. I truly don't know." Hearing this, Nona burst into tears on the spot. "So Iso hates me." But then he continued, "That person, you've met her before. Remember?" In an instant, Nona's despair flipped into joy. She punched herself in frustration. "Scare me half to death, making me overthink like that." Meanwhile, not far away, Snail had already raised her scythe, ready to charge in and slice off Iso's head. But a booming voice came from behind her. "Human girl, why are you out here alone? Come inside with us. Tonight's a feast." And just like that, Iso dodged death once again. Odyssey, ever the alchemy nerd, clenched his fist and silently swore to protect the man before him. To him, Iso was a true hero, saving thousands, even hunted by a demon lord. Holding a notebook, Odyssey scribbled as he spoke, "If you can describe the monster to me, I can draft a counter-strategy." Iso gave him a look, still uneasy, then muttered, "Probably a humanoid, wears a black cloak, always carrying a ridiculously huge scythe, and the chest is really big." Before long, the giant chieftain invited Iso and the others to a grand banquet. On the surface, the feast was warm and festive, as if centuries of hatred between humans and giants had melted away in just a few days. But behind the scenes, the chieftain whispered to his men, "Slip the drug into their wine. We must knock them out first. Remember, not a word of this must leak. Drink less tonight. No slip-ups." He gritted his teeth. "Tonight, we go to war. The humans must never find out." And so, the drug was quietly poured into the humans' cups. In the shadows, Nona had heard everything from beginning to end. She clenched her fists. "This time, it's my turn to protect Lord Iso." Meanwhile, in the banquet hall, the chieftain raised his cup with a grin. "Sir Iso, won't you drink? This is slime wine, the pride of our people." Inside, he was screaming, "Drink it already. I even sacrificed our precious slime wine to bait you." But Iso was thinking, "If it weren't for needing you to stall Snail, I'd be gone already. Hurry up." The next second, the chieftain almost panicked, only to see Iso slam his cup down on the table. "Of course I'll drink this wine," he declared, "but not yet. This moment is too historic to rush. So before we drink, let me say a few words." He paused, then solemnly announced, "I'll keep it brief. Coming to this land of good is wonderful. This cooperation is wonderful. And for that, I have 3 visions. First, that night, the giants finally remembered what it meant to feel the fear of being dominated by humans. There stood Iso, surrounded by giants, unleashing his ultimate weapon, nonsense literature. Historic moment, personal experience striving toward a brighter tomorrow. He rambled so long the giants lost track of time. Split apart, his words made sense. Strung together, they were gibberish. It was nonsense, yet it sounded almost profound. For the simple, muscle-brained giants, it was sheer mental torture. The conclusion was unanimous. Damn it, humans are terrifyingly strong. Just when the giants were about to break down, Iso finally ended his speech, declaring the feast could begin. In an instant, the giants were so moved they nearly cried. cheering with all their strength as thunderous applause shook the hall. The chieftain lifted his cup and offered it forward. "You've spoken for so long. Have some wine to moisten your throat." ISO stared at the thick, slimy liquid inside the cup, face full of disgust, yet there was no escaping it. "Fine. I really can't talk anymore. Just a small sip then." But just as the wine was about to touch his lips, a sharp voice cut through. "Lord ISO, don't drink it." Nona stood with arms crossed, brows furrowed, glaring at the cup and then at the giant chieftain. The chieftain's heart skipped a beat. "No." Did this human girl notice? He scrambled to explain. "There's absolutely no drug in this wine. Look, I'm drinking the same thing. This is my treasured slime wine." But Nona refused to back down. Fearless before a figure many times her size, she shouted, "Then you drink first. Prove it. You're the chieftain. You should drink before anyone else." The chieftain stared at the cup, then steeled himself. "For the future of my people, sacrificing myself means nothing." Under Nona's unwavering gaze, with the bubbling sound rising from the cup, sweat poured down his back. Finally, he snapped. Slamming the cup onto the table with a loud crash, he roared, "You insolent humans!" The cup shattered, and in his fury he revealed the truth. The wine was drugged. If it weren't for the heavy bribes, he would have already crushed them all with one strike. Enraged and humiliated, the chieftain stormed off. Nona, however, was not satisfied, especially after being called rude earlier. She was about to lash back, but Odyssey quickly covered her mouth from behind, whispering, "Don't. They're giants. You can't win. Forget it. Let's not stoop to his level. Come on. I'll take you back to rest, all right?" And so the banquet ended in a false cheer. Giants drank themselves unconscious or wandered off, and even Odyssey, usually glued to ISO's side, finally left him alone. A chill crept up ISO's spine. Uneasy, he muttered to himself, "It's fine. I still have the cold iron cage. I'll be at your side right now, this very instant." The snowy night was bitter cold. Past midnight, in a mountain ravine, a dark figure appeared, shouldering a massive scythe. ISO stepped into the cold iron cage he had prepared long ago, sitting cross-legged. He had waited far too long for this moment. Hearing footsteps, he slowly opened his eyes and saw that all too familiar figure. He spoke calmly. "We meet again, Miss Snail." Before he could finish, Snail dashed forward in a blur, scythe in hand, her face utterly expressionless. Unfazed, ISO raised his hand high and slammed it down on a skull-shaped mark on the ground. "Time to show you my new toy." With a thunderous boom, the iron cage dropped, sparks flying as a deafening hum shook the canyon. Though it looked like success, ISO showed no joy, only a dark skin. He muttered in exasperation. Who the hell puts the switch inside the trap? The whole snowy mountain echoed with one name, Odyssey. He locked eyes with Snail, close yet untouchable. "I can't get out, and neither can you. Finally caught you." His lips curled into a smirk. "Now it's just a matter of who's got thicker fat. You can't kill me, and you can't escape. So just accept your fate." But Snail swung her scythe hard against the bars. A shard shot past ISO's face. He froze, heart nearly stopping. A tiny crack had opened in the cage. Snail saw it too, her eyes colder than ever. She pressed her scythe to the gap, grinding against it with practiced, merciless motions. The screech of metal filled the air, iron dust raining down, and ISO's eyes widened further. Odyssey's warning echoed in his head. Cold iron had almost no resistance to magic. Could that scythe be enchanted? A long bar of iron clattered to the ground, and ISO's nerves snapped like the cage itself. He saw Snail's head already halfway through and cried out in panic, "Don't come any closer!" But her chest got stuck at the gap, those two obstacles blocking her advance. The rasping grind resumed, a death knell drilling into ISO's mind. "Stay calm. The more dangerous it gets, the calmer I have to be," he muttered to himself. Then his eyes flicked to the beaded bracelet on his wrist, and an idea struck. He suddenly shouted, "Vera!" Snail stiffened, actually reacting. ISO's eyes lit up. There was hope. She wasn't mute. That meant he could talk to her. Pointing at her with a wicked grin, he taunted, "Vera, I suggest you behave, or I'll tell your parents." Snail froze on the spot, staring at him, stunned. Sweat poured down ISO's face. He knew the words he'd just thrown out could scare off countless demons. But with this woman, they might not work at all. Quickly, he added, "Don't underestimate the power of money. I could send people to find your family or your friends. And when that happens, I can't guarantee what might follow. After all, you wouldn't want them to know you used to be a killer, right?" Sure enough, Snail lowered her head, as if shaken. Sensing an opening, ISO pulled out his beaded bracelet. "Remember, we both have the Big Eater certification. Think about that kind shopkeeper. I even invested in his place. If I die, he loses his income too. This world isn't just hate. Let's embrace peace and love." To stay alive, he shamelessly used another man's livelihood as leverage against a girl. But instead of mercy, it sparked fury. Snail unleashed her ultimate whirlwind top attack, hacking at the cage nonstop. ISO's face went stiff, sweat soaking him. "Damn it, Odyssey, you're not coming to save me?" Another chunk of the cage shattered. Snail was already halfway in. His heart sank. "I'm done. So this is it? Always running, never really living. Guess that's the end." Suddenly, fabric tore. As her upper body squeezed through, the bars ripped open her chest cloth. Snail didn't care. Her eyes still burned with the urge to kill. But as she forced her lower half in, she got stuck. Too big. Too much good food from the production crew. ISO caught the scene clearly. He couldn't hold back anymore and burst into wild laughter that echoed through the cage. Snail's cheeks flushed bright red, and for once, she looked flustered. ISO seized the chance, sneering. Well, isn't this Miss Vera? Out here in the middle of the night. What exactly are you doing?" He twisted the knife. "Don't tell me you're stuck?" Then, with a sly grin, "Since you can't move, let me show you my prized treasure. Behold, the portable Green Breath mini edition." He continued solemnly. "Now you'll witness the cruelty of society. Don't blame me." In the next instant, he glued Snail's hands to the bars, leaving her trapped, unable to move forward or back. Relieved, ISO pulled out a pen, leaned close, and demanded, "Talk. Why are you chasing me? Is it really God's order? What'll make you stop? I'm sick of living rich. All I want now is freedom from this constant hunt, a peaceful life. Confess, and it'll go easier. Resist, and it'll be worse." Snail gave him nothing, snapping her head away. Undeterred, ISO pressed on. "Seems you don't get it. Corner man, and he'll do unspeakable things." He scrawled a pig's nose on her cheek with his pen. He sneered, "Don't underestimate this pen. Once it's on, it's permanent." Snail's eyes shimmered with tears of the humiliation, yet her gaze stayed fierce, locked on ISO. ISO sighed. "Even after all this humiliation, you still won't tell the truth? I'm just an ordinary guy, just trying to survive. You're a worker too. Don't lose sight of what really matters." With no other choice, he pulled his trump card, snatching the beaded necklace off Snail's wrist. "Give it back." The three words rang crystal clear in ISO's ears. But instead of being moved, he slammed the necklace to the ground. Half a year, countless nights, so you could talk all along. Snail's killing intent erupted instantly. Her aura exploded, cold air flooding the room as she clenched her teeth, ready to tear ISO apart. Panicking, ISO quickly picked up the beads, wiping them clean. "What are you doing, huh? Pick it up and it's fine." Then he pushed on. "Since you can talk, spit out the truth. Otherwise, who knows which unicorn's ass this bracelet ends up in." He glanced at Vera with a hollow look. Who would have thought? There are things money can't fix. If he regretted anything since crossing into this world, it was signing that damn contract with the old god. Back then he thought money could solve everything. Now, he only wished he could slap himself. All he wanted was to end that cursed deal. Grabbing Snail's cheek, he snarled, "I don't care about your contract with the god. Tell me, how do I end this hunt? Not convinced, huh? My patience has limits." He rubbed her face harder, but only got a pair of cold, unflinching eyes in return. Furious, ISO pressed harder, pulling something from his coat. Fine, don't blame me. This blade is forged with 81 deadly poisons. One little scratch, and your skin will rot instantly. And if I really slash, no one, not even that old god, can save you. His grin turned twisted, his act of playing the psycho almost thrilling him. But midway through his laugh, he froze. Snail's bound hand had grabbed his collar. ISO looked down, his smile stiff. That grin now belonged to the viewers watching. For the first time in half a year, Snail had laid a hand on him. He inhaled sharply, forcing his face into kindness while his trembling hands betrayed him. Jay, just kidding. I'd never hurt you. Snail remained stone-faced and yanked him toward the bars. She spoke one word at a time, like a child learning to talk. The contract has begun. It won't stop. With a violent tug, she pulled ISO straight out. She tossed him aside like trash. Her words were the answer he dreaded. This contract could never end. Watching her approach step by step with the scythe in hand, ISO let out a long sigh. Before I die, I just want to know what's in that contract. Grant me that as my last wish. Snail's face stayed cold and shadowed. You don't need to know. Forcing a smile, ISO held up the bracelet. Take it. You'll never have to pay for dumplings again. But her reply crushed his last hope. Killing you makes it mine anyway. Slowly pulling his hood over his head, ISO's spirit sank into despair. So be it. I'll just die with this regret. Just then, Snail spoke two words. Your eyes. She continued coldly. From a moment, I find you until you vanish from my sight. If you slip away, that counts as your escape. Then I can only wait for the next chance. ISO froze. So it's all about losing her line of sight? But that doesn't fully add up. Snail went silent for a moment. Then her voice cut through like ice. I've already said enough. ISO let out a resigned sigh. So the time's up. He chuckled bitterly. Still, dying at the hands of such a beautiful girl. Not the worst way to go. One last request. Let me put this bracelet on you. To touch a girl's hand before I die. That would ease my regrets. The sudden request made Snail pause, caught off guard. Slowly, she raised her hand. Seeing this, ISO smiled and reached out to fasten the bracelet. His hands moved at lightning speed. Thank you for giving me this chance. I'll treasure this life you've just given me. What kind of man says this? Snail's thoughts twisted. He'd just humiliated her, and now this? But ISO stepped back with a sly grin. You didn't say it outright, but I figured it out. The contract has a time limit, right? He smirked. You can only hunt me at night. Daytime isn't your hunting ground. And don't forget, we're in the north. Nights are shorter here. Snail lowered her head, silent. Then softly, so it was all a lie? ISO's heart, which had just settled, lurched again, guilt clawing at him. Snail lifted her face, crimson eyes blazing. The god, and even you. All the same. Meeting her gaze for just a heartbeat, ISO felt like his chest would burst. The side spun in her grip as she stepped forward. This time, I'm really done for, ISO muttered. Snail's face was stone, her eyes cold as frost. She swung the scythe down with merciless force. A blinding flash split the night. The snow mountain itself was cleaved in two. The iron cage shattered with a deafening roar, and ISO tumbled, the world spinning around him. This lunatic just split a mountain, he cursed inwardly. Thankfully, his little feather-brand flying shoes slowed his fall. Snail's crimson eyes burned as she screamed, I will never let you go. But her figure was swallowed whole by the avalanche, vanishing from sight. The violent quake shook the land, drawing the giants from every direction. They stared in shock at the devastation before them. One giant stammered, I swear I saw ISO walking here alone yesterday. Before the chieftain could respond, two hands slammed onto the edge of the cliff. And under every giant's gaze, ISO vaulted upward in flawless style, landing with perfect grace. As soon as he lifted his head, ISO realized the place was surrounded by giants. Then came the thuds, giant after giant dropping to their knees. ISO nearly jumped out of his skin. What now? I barely survived the last mess. And here comes another. The giant chieftain bellowed, All good giants swear eternal loyalty to Lord ISO. To cleave a mountain in two with a single strike. Such power left the giants eager to submit. The next morning, Odyssey woke up to find the battle long over. What on earth happened last night? He muttered in confusion. Meanwhile, ISO sat atop a giant's shoulder, lost in thought before finally answering, I don't know either. He gazed off into the distance, eyes distant and hazy. That better not say too much. That vague reply only drove Odyssey mad. He trailed right behind ISO, firing question after question. There's no way the guy who lived through it knows nothing. He even poked ISO on the shoulder. Lord, can you secretly tell me what really happened last night? ISO scratched his head awkwardly. It's just kind of inconvenient to say. At first, Odyssey was baffled. Then his eyes lit up. I get it now. You don't even want to remember last night's brutal, bloody, heart-pounding battle, do you? He leaned in closer, more excited by the second. Or maybe the enemy can tamper with memories, blur consciousness? Fine, at least tell me the demon's name. At that moment, Nona saw Odyssey step out of a lodging and called out, Odyssey, good morning. Is Lord ISO in? But Odyssey seemed not to hear. His face was vacant as he muttered, repeating two words, Velter, Velter. He suddenly slapped his palm, looked up at Nona, and said, So that's it. I get it now. Nona, already full of grievances, couldn't hold back. She marched up and punched him. You and your paranoid nonsense. Get a grip this early in the morning. That punch actually woke Odyssey properly. He gasped, realization dawning, learning that name could bring death. With a grave look, he warned Nona in a low voice, Don't pry. The title bestowed upon Lord ISO is not something ordinary people can bear. Confused, Nona ran to ISO and shouted, Odyssey's lost his mind. What are you two even talking about? ISO cut her off and changed the subject. Miss Nona, have you been having fun these past days? The sudden question left Nona stunned, emotion clashing with reality. ISO grinned and added, You look like you're having a blast. I'll leave half the caravan with you. Enjoy yourself and come back when you're done. Nona snapped back to attention. Wait, where are you going? Is this Snow Mountain trip already over? ISO's gaze hardened, as if making a solemn vow. I'm going to find a woman who means everything to me. Before he could finish, a flying kick sent ISO sprawling, Nona's rebuttal. As she ran away, she cried, You blockhead! ISO was baffled. Why the reaction? But the pressing matter remained. How to deal with Velter. She wouldn't go down easily. The intelligence they'd acquired this time was substantial, useful for the next round. ISO vowed. Velter, this time I'll unmask the truth. He turned to Shirley for help. This man had just turned down one request and instantly taken another, absurd enough to be worth a lecture. ISO described the target as a humanoid, a rare race, female, and very large. They wanted to ask about height and appearance. Just how big was she? Shirley paused, then said, We'll start searching as soon as we return to Loxy City. ISO suddenly grabbed Shirley's hand and shouted, This is vital to me, like entrusting my life to you. He didn't know what that woman meant to ISO, but it didn't matter. After all, ISO had entrusted him with his very life. Shirley blushed, turned away, and left behind just one line, Better get me a portrait. ISO thought for a moment. Indeed, having a portrait would make things much easier. But where could he find an artist? As if by fate, a loud shout rang out nearby. Make way, clear the path. A woman appeared, proudly declaring herself ISO's caravan painter. Her name was Andrew. Excited, she said, These are historic moments. Once I return, if I leave behind a few paintings, they'll surely become timeless classics. ISO walked closer and picked up the sketch lying on the ground. He nodded to himself. She seemed reliable. When he reached Andrew, she eagerly introduced herself as a realist painter. ISO stared at the canvas and thought, So this is art? Then he shook his head. Not quite what I want. Redo it. Meanwhile, his caravan was already on the road back. The giants cried and waved, shouting, Lord ISO, Please come again. We'll even build an ISO theme park for you." At last, the troublesome guests had departed. Back in the caravan, after some wrangling, ISO finally obtained the portrait, but it looked nothing like what he had envisioned. The woman in the painting looked dignified and holy, like a saint in a cathedral, but the real one should have been far darker, far more sinister. Then Andrew spoke up. "I never thought I'd see this outfit a second time." She recalled a journey to a remote village where she'd seen strange folk. During their festivals, the women wore the exact same attire, but the people there had been unnervingly eerie. ISO's heart skipped a beat. Could this finally be the trail to Vela? Not long after, Glorious Light City erupted in celebration of ISO's triumphant return. Inside the city's Merchants Guild, ISO slammed the portrait down on the table and barked, "Now! Immediately! Find me this woman. I want every scrap of information on her." He added, "As I've said before, money is no issue, no matter how much." Yet in truth, he was still trapped in the same cycle. Every Sunday, Vela would hunt him down, and the snail before him looked exactly like the woman in the portrait. ISO jolted awake, drenched in sweat. Damn it, is it Sunday again? Ever since that clash, he'd been dreaming constantly of the woman who haunted his thoughts. Shuddering, he muttered, "What a massive snail." Just then, a knock at the door jolted him awake. Opening it, he found the guild president, bowing respectfully. "Lord ISO, as per your instructions, we've spread wanted posters nationwide. ISO, there's another matter. We'd like to appraise the giant clan's goods you brought back." With a sly grin, the president added, "Even the wealthiest of men can't escape their first loves. Seems you're no exception." ISO sighed, clearly annoyed. "Don't jump to conclusions." The woman who haunted his mind every waking moment, just thinking of her sent a chill down his spine. To call it love was wrong. It felt more like his heart might simply stop beating. Out on the streets, lanterns hung high and crowds surged, as if another New Year's festival was underway. This time, it was all for his triumphant return. ISO frowned, puzzled by the spectacle. The guild president quickly flattered him. "It's all because you, the hero of humankind, have returned. The people celebrate from the bottom of their hearts." In the town square, a grand stage had been erected bearing a massive portrait of ISO. On stage, his caravan's painter gave a rousing speech, proudly flashing her sketches one after another. Children stared with wide-eyed worship. Women blushed and whispered, "If only my husband had even a fraction of Lord ISO's courage." The painter whipped out another piece, shouting, "This masterpiece shows Lord ISO drinking with the giant chieftain. Only one exists in the world, just 998. Don't miss your chance." Meanwhile, the legendary unicorn, revered as a divine beast, was surrounded by children. To see one in a lifetime was rare, yet here it was. Suddenly, a thug's kick knocked a boy to the ground as he barked, "Filthy peasants! How dare you smudge a sacred beast? Can you afford the price?" Two figures approached from behind. One snapped, "What the hell are you doing? Broad daylight isn't the time for stunts." A blonde girl strode past him, frowning, and knelt by the boy. "Our mission is to retrieve the unicorn. If anything happens, do you think you can bear the punishment?" She gently patted the boy's head and said softly, "Does it still hurt? Sorry, it's our fault for not keeping an eye on our companion. He's not well." The boy's anger turned to pity. "Oh, if he's sick, then I forgive him." Hearing that, the thug exploded. "Sick? My father's the guild master. The only reason you women are here is because of him." The blonde replied coolly, her tone filled with pity. "There he goes again. Poor thing." The thug roared louder. "Poor? Once my uncle from the branch dies, I won't have to take orders from you anymore." He never finished. A flying kick came out of nowhere, along with a thunderous curse. "Wretch!" The guild president stormed up, snarling, "I brought you here to show you the world, not to let you shame your father. Don't think fancy skin makes you nobility." The thug still sneered, snapping back. "And the guy who rented that unicorn? Isn't he just another upstart rich man?" The guild president frowned, waving his hand sharply. How could he be a mere upstart? He is Lord ISO, the hero of the people. You dare compare him to anyone else? At the mention of his name, the blonde girl rushed forward, eyes shining. Lord ISO, your deeds have already spread throughout the palace. Even the royal capital is taking great interest in you. She bowed respectfully. Forgive my boldness. Allow me to introduce myself. I am an ancient civilization scholar in charge of recovering the unicorn, and AISO, a protector of divine beasts. My name is Sisma, researcher of the Royal Academy's Department of Sacred Relics. ISO's interest was instantly piqued. Meanwhile, back at home, Nona burst through the door crying, Father, I'm not clean anymore, I'm not clean. Count Canda's blood pressure shot through the roof. As a doting father, his mind instantly spun wild with dark scenarios. Without asking questions, he roared, Bastard boy, today is your death day, and stormed out the door. Nona muttered under her breath, I just stepped in dog crap on the way home. What rotten luck. Turning around, she realized her father was already gone. The butler spoke gently, Miss, you still cannot hold back your temper, as always. He continued solemnly, Forgive me for speaking out of turn, but this journey of yours, in some sense, it hasn't gone smoothly, has it? He bowed slightly. Since I watched you grow up, I cannot stand by. Allow me to teach you how to truly capture the heart of a man. Back at the guild hall, Sisma said gratefully, The ancient ruins you've protected, the lost paintings you preserved, they all carry immense significance for our present. ISO scratched his head, embarrassed. Inwardly he thought, Thanks, Snail. All these good deeds, and they credit me for them. Suddenly he feigned a troubled look. Truth is, I've been researching a lost race recently. It's been a headache, outside my field of expertise. Sisma's eyes lit up. This could very well be a discovery that shakes the entire world. ISO leaned in, grinning. Then why not have your department join the investigation? Come, I'll take you to the records. But before he could take another step, a furious shout rang out. Scoundrel! After defiling my daughter, you dare trick other girls too? Guards rushed forward in alarm. Lord ISO, this man suddenly went mad. He stormed the guild hall and even smashed the ancient staff. But to Kanda, the staff meant nothing compared to his daughter's chastity. Sisma's eyes widened in shock. Could this be the very staff you unearthed? The one that's already driven small nations into war over it? This is an ancient relic, worth more than a kingdom. Count Canda's face turned pale, eyes wide as he shouted, Take Nona as collateral. Just spare my life. At that moment, ISO stepped forward, voice cold. Enough. It's nothing but a broken stick. If it snapped, then let it be. And for the record, on the journey, Nona was always sharing a room with Shiwa Lai, so don't get the wrong idea. I have urgent business. Stop wasting my time. Not long after, word reached ISO someone had located the mysterious village. It was said to be shrouded in mystery, impossible to reach by land. He recalled how he himself had been traveling when a sudden dizziness struck, and in the blink of an eye, he stood at the village gate. Now, the only path left was through the heights of the upper clouds. But the Dragon Queen was in her breeding season, violent and untouchable. Ordinary strength would never even earn a chance to negotiate. Later, at a dumpling shop, the owner stared at him curiously. Lord ISO, that bracelet of yours is identical to one worn by another guest I saw, and you look so much like her. Are you her brother? Or her sister? Meanwhile, back home, Nona glared at her father in disbelief. Dad, say that again? Being forced counts as love? How could those words come from your mouth? Kanda argued confidently. Young people should have a love that burns bright. Besides, that Lord ISO is truly outstanding. But deep down he thought, if that kid changes his mind one day, what then? That broken stick of his, even my lifetime savings couldn't pay for it. Unless we become family. He coughed twice, then urged, Nona, listen to me. You'd better close the distance between you and Lord ISO. Nona, however, slumped in despair. I can't. I've already tried my best. She thought bitterly, a flower is never short of bees. And me? I can't even get close to Lord ISO's heart. But Kanda pressed on. Your mother didn't choose me at first either. Yet I carve a path through the thorns with charm, talent, and sheer will. He added smugly, sure, money played a role. But wealth is a kind of charm too. People love a rich man without question. Nona shook her head. That's not true love at all. She sighed. And Lord ISO doesn't lack money. A second-generation rich kid like me? I'd never catch his eye. The butler leaned closer, lowering his voice. Rumor has it that blacksmith boy is often with Lord ISO. Could it be he has some unusual interests? Nona went on. This time he rushed back just to find a woman named Vela. Even Shiwalai said, even if he fails to find her, he'd never turn his eyes on me. Hearing this, both Nona and Kanda sighed in relief together. Good, at least he's still interested in women. Kanda added, for a man of his rank to cling to someone like that, she must be extraordinary. Nona's brows knitted. Could it be his first love? Her heart sank even further. If that's true, then I don't stand a chance. Kanda, resting his chin on his hand, nodded firmly. Exactly. To Lord ISO, she's his untouchable white moonlight. All we need is to shatter the illusion. If ISO discovers that this Vela is already married, freckled, runny-nosed, and flat as a board, won't his fantasy collapse instantly? Nona grew uneasy. How could Vela possibly be that ordinary? Kanda lowered his voice. But we can make her whoever we want. Nona instantly caught on, horrified. You mean to fabricate a fake Vela just to poison Lord ISO's memory? That's despicable. You scumbag father. Kanda, however, turned deadly serious as he strode off. Remember this. Love is war. You do whatever it takes. Only the last one standing wins. He was even willing to push his own daughter forward, muttering, you can't trap a wolf without sacrificing the lamb. And as a merchant, morals don't put food on the table. Nona, sharp as ever, grew suspicious. Why such a sudden change in Dad's attitude? Don't tell me Lord ISO has something on him. She warned coldly. You'd better come clean while you still can. Meanwhile, inside the glimmering City Merchants Guild, ISO sat in silence, staring at a letter in his hand while a painter and Odysseus argued nearby. He finally spoke up. Any other leads on that mysterious race? The two stopped bickering and explained, the town of Amaru is as remote as it gets, lying beyond the borders of the Dawn Kingdom. According to records, the Clan of Death, ISO called the Eternal Night Tribe, once lived there. But today they're gone. Only a few villagers still claim to be their descendants. To reach it now, we need the help of dragons. Our plan is to win their favor. Truth is, they don't hate humans. In their eyes, humans are like kittens and puppies. Bring them food, and you can talk. That's the only method left. Suddenly, the door rattled with heavy knocks. A voice shouted, Lord ISO, I brought you the Vela you were looking for. ISO froze, almost screamed, and was about to bolt. At the doorway stood a woman who looked suspiciously like a man. ISO's jaw dropped. What the hell is this? She wore the exact same outfit as the snail, and even threw him a flirtatious glance. So, you're finally ready to pay for that night of passion, aren't you? The room's atmosphere turned surreal, as if a rainbow had split the air. The staff shoved her out like cattle, but she still shouted, I am Vela, the one Lord ISO dreams of day and night. Since I came all this way, at least cover my travel expenses. ISO sighed helplessly. Didn't I say? At the very least, she should be a young girl. If more show up, just give them some money and send them off. The branch president was drenched in cold sweat, stammering, Lord ISO, I strongly advise against this. With that, he pushed open the window. ISO looked out and froze, stunned by the scene. A massive, endless black line of people stretched beyond the horizon. He stood rooted to the spot. Slowly, he turned his gaze back toward the guildmaster. With a loud slam, the guildmaster shut the door. My apologies, Lord ISO. I'll disperse them right away. Meanwhile, out on the street, Nona's face burned red as she dragged her father. You were going to pawn off your own daughter? You shameless old man. Come with me to apologize to Lord ISO. Kanda panicked, his face twisted in dread. Do you have any idea how much that damn stick costs? Even if we go bankrupt, we couldn't pay it back. Tears welled up in Nona's eyes. First he saved my life. Now I owe him a fortune. I'll never repay this debt. All thanks to you, Dad. Now Lord ISO must see me as nothing but a burden, a woman who only causes trouble. Kanda quickly patted her shoulder. Nona, as long as you follow my plan, you may lose your dignity, but I'll gain a son-in-law. A sharp slap cracked across his face. Gay my ass. You're just selling your daughter off. To Nona, though this kind of thing was nothing new, she clenched her teeth and pulled him straight toward the guild. She was determined to teach her father a lesson. Her little fist swung, only to smash against what felt like a steel wall. Quit shoving, girl. Learn some manners. If you want to be Vela, get in line, barked a burly, scar-faced woman. Nona blinked in confusion. Could Vela really be nearby? Could she truly be here? Instantly, dozens of faces turned toward her in unison. Were you calling for me? Nona's left eyelid twitched. This can't be good. Two seasoned competitors stepped forward. You? Compete for the name of Vela. This is the arena of irresistible women, not little girls. Nona, flustered, blurted, no. I'm Nona, Lord ISO's important companion. The crowd burst into laughter. Don't even know the rules, yet you think you can cash in? Little sister, better check the wanted notice first. Tossing her a sheet of paper, the pair walked off. Nona stared at the notice in her hands, stunned. Unbelievable, that unlucky old man was right. Is this story really about to spread across the world? Realizing the truth, she gazed blankly at the sky. The notice in her hands was the fairy tale she had always dreamed of, but the heroine wasn't her. She felt like a clown. Forget it. Let the world burn. Yet, a spark of hope flickered. But what if Lord ISO gets dumped? Then I could step in, filling the void in his heart. The thought made her grin foolishly. Just then, a dark figure caught her eye. Such a small child. Could it be? A poor kid, forced by his parents to make money here? Meanwhile, back inside the guild hall, the guild master cleared his throat. After further investigation, it turns out the issue lies with our organizers. As an apology, everyone here may collect a free loaf of charity bread, while supplies last. The guild master announced loudly, "Please collect your compensation and leave in order. This event is now concluded." The whole thing had barely even started before it ended, with compensation being nothing more than loaves of bread. The crowd erupted in protest. Refund. Refund. Meanwhile, at the bread stall, a childish voice piped up, "I, Vela, want that one." One of the young women nearby was instantly charmed. "Little sister, are you Vela too? You're adorable." The girl pointed her tiny finger straight at the biggest loaf on the rack. Another woman tried to advise, "That's too big. Maybe pick a smaller one." But a short-haired girl cut her off firmly. "I believe in her. Because those eyes, they hold a sacred reverence for food. She's no ordinary girl." Moments later, Snail staggered over, hugging a loaf almost as big as herself, and plopped down beside Nona. She sat quietly at her side. Nona watched the girl chomp down half the bread in one bite and couldn't help blurting, "So cute." Then she noticed the bracelet on the girl's wrist. It was the exact same as Lord ISO's. It truly gave her the air of a champion eater. Feeling awkward, Nona spoke softly. "Little sister, would you sell that dumpling bracelet to me? I'll give you a bag of gold coins. You won't have to work. You could go to school instead." But then she recalled the dumpling shop owner's words. There was only ever one pair of those bracelets. Just as she was about to confirm, the girl suddenly hiccuped. Alarmed, Nona jumped to her feet. "Did you eat too fast? I'll get you some water." Watching her leave, Snail rose with her bread in her arms and walked straight into a dark corner. In that moment, she seemed to grow up all at once. Then a crisp sound rang out nearby. Snail turned her head and locked eyes with Nona. For a moment, neither of them knew what to say. Meanwhile, from a high window, ISO looked down at the thinning crowd and muttered, "This is exhausting. The guild master braced himself and stepped forward. This failure is on us. Forgive my bluntness. Earlier, I overheard your plans. Might you be in need of mage support? Surely, Lord ISO, a man of your connections, has heard of the name Cradle. They are one of our partner organizations, the Mage Association of the Royal Capital, essentially the Merchants Guild of the Wizarding world. The guild master thumped his chest confidently. Everyone in Cradle is top-notch talent. If it's a mage from there, you can pick one with your eyes closed and not go wrong. ISO, however, looked awkward. He'd had a few disagreements with them in the past. Even so, the guild master dragged him to the association's front gates, insisting, "Mages are just eccentric, that's all. Trust me, it'll be fine." Not far away, a massive notice was posted. If this man is spotted within the academy, kill him on sight. Highest honors will be awarded to whoever completes the task. As it turned out, even Cradle couldn't resist the lure of money. Back when ISO had no clue how to deal with Snail, he kept throwing cash around, hiring mages from Cradle. One by one, he pulled in the top names. And one by one, they all fell. None ever made it back whole. And soon enough, ISO was dumped onto Cradle's blacklist of the century. The branch president didn't think much of it, just paused in thought. Then he remembered. He had a distant relative who'd just graduated from Cradle. ISO snapped his fingers and gave a thumbs up. Perfect. I'll pay 10 times the rate. Half an hour later, a pair of pink eyes studied ISO up and down. The two of them locked stares. Just as ISO reached for an apple, whoosh. The pink-haired girl who'd been lounging on the sofa appeared right beside him. Holding the apple, she spoke with smug pride. "You're younger than I expected." This was Celine, the guild master's distant relative and a freshly minted Cradle graduate. ISO's interest flared, not in her, but in the magic she'd just displayed. "Can you take me along with that spell?" Celine bit into the apple and flatly replied, "Nope." Disappointed, ISO flopped onto the couch. "Damn, if I had that magic, escaping would be a breeze. Come on, teach me. Can't you fast-track it?" Celine smirked, amused. "Fast track? This isn't grade school math. You don't just pick it up overnight." She explained, "The reason I mastered it so easily wasn't just talent. My teacher was the world-renowned great sage, Magellan." ISO's brows lifted as old memories hit him. He pictured that confident back and himself hiding behind a rock, whispering, "Professor Magellan, I'm counting on you." And then, nothing. One hit from the snail's strike nearly ended it. Magellan went down, and ISO barely crawled out alive. Celine herself was puzzled by her master's retirement. "I still don't know why he suddenly vanished from the stage." And then there's Yaren, our senior, called the light of tomorrow in Cradle. ISO went quiet. He remembered too well. Yaren had tried a mental attack, hoping to turn Snail into some shameless exhibitionist. But the scythe reflected the magic back. Yaren's own spell rebounded, twisting her into a real pervert. Celine sighed, eyes wistful. "I really want to go back to campus and see it all again." Celine was lost in her memories when ISO suddenly cut her off. "Enough. Join my team. Now." His tone was urgent, as if afraid she might back out. After all, everyone who had joined his team before ended up either stabbed in the back or turned into a lunatic. This pink-haired girl was destined to be the third. Without delay, they began planning the trip. They had to leave immediately and reach the destination by nightfall. Hearing how rushed it was, Celine frowned. So urgent. She had originally planned to return to the academy. Behind them, Odyssey tensed up, though his nerves carried a spark of excitement. He would finally get to witness the demon with his own eyes. ISO walked to the window, gazing at the sky. His voice was heavy. "Trust me, she's not someone you want to see." As he spoke, his eyes drifted downward. There, waving frantically from below, was a familiar figure, Nona. She looked anxious, waving her arms, desperate to get upstairs and speak to him. After hearing her out, ISO's face hardened, disbelief flashing in his eyes. "You're telling me you saw a younger Vera?" Nona gestured as she explained. "Yes, like a child Vera, suddenly transforming into an adult." But just as she was about to mention the location, her words faltered. Her head went blank, her memory wiped clean. Watching her struggle, ISO's patience snapped. He assumed this was just Khan's trick. Playing games with me? Vera is life or death to me. Nona grew frantic, almost in tears. No, it's not a lie. She tried to explain further, but ISO cut her off again. He was moving on to the next location. Refusing to give up, Nona shouted, "Even if it costs me my life, I would never deceive Lord ISO. I will prove it." An hour later, as they traveled together, Odyssey finally asked, "So, that's the reason you tagged along?" Nona shot back without hesitation. "Aren't you looking for Vera? I'm only here to prove I wasn't lying." Celine glanced back at the lineup for this trip. A nouveau riche, a blacksmith boy, and a hot-headed heiress, all claiming they were heading to the Wyvern Mountains. She couldn't shake off a bad feeling. And sure enough, it came true. A sudden strike slammed into the carriage. The vehicle lurched out of control, tumbling straight toward the cliff's edge. Inside, ISO shouted for Odyssey. Ready for this, Odyssey yanked a lever without hesitation. In an instant, the carriage folded into an iron sphere. It bounced and crashed again and again, until, miraculously, it landed safely. Thank the ancients for this relic of the battlefield. But one thing didn't add up. They were still far from the Wyvern's nesting grounds. Why the sudden attack? ISO peered through the window. A Wyvern's claws clamped onto the iron sphere, lifting them straight into the sky. Odyssey muttered with regret. Can I quit my job now?" But there was no turning back. To uncover the truth, ISO had stepped onto a road of no return, and his companions had no escape either. Suspended in the heavens, the Wyvern hauled them off before hurling the iron sphere into unknown lands. With a deafening crash, the sphere shattered into pieces, smoke rising all around. Somehow, they survived unscathed. As they regained their breath, they realized they were atop a mountain peak piercing the clouds, the lair of the Wyverns. Just as panic set in, a human voice called out from behind, "Lord ISO, is that you?" All four spun around at once. From a basement in the corner, two balding elders peeked out, overjoyed at the sight of him. After some exchange, ISO learned the truth. The Wyverns had brought him here because their queen was gravely ill. Wyverns might be highly intelligent, but they still needed human help. And the queen's condition was dire, unlike anything seen before. ISO blinked at the two men, dumbfounded. "Wait, you're twins." The elders weren't offended. They calmly explained that they studied biology, specifically wyverns. They had discovered the queen's illness, but the rest of the details would come from someone else. Confused, ISO turned around. Out walked a man dressed bizarrely, almost like a caveman. He scratched his head in embarrassment. "Apologies for the fright. City doctors bolted the moment they heard they'd be treating a wyvern." He went on to explain that he often visited Radiant City, and when his teacher saw ISO's portrait, he insisted ISO had the skills. So they resorted to this desperate measure. ISO nearly collapsed. "It was you who dragged me here? If doctors couldn't handle it, how do you expect me to?" But the man pleaded desperately, warning that the virus could spread across the entire wyvern race. Once maddened, they would rampage against nearby towns. Only then did ISO grasp the gravity of the situation. If he refused, he'd be the first target. Reluctantly, he agreed. The group finally stood before the Wyvern Queen. The strange man reached out to gently stroke her scales, showing not a shred of fear before the massive beast. He began to explain. It all started with an egg. The wyvern's frenzy and unrest began the moment the queen laid a stone-like egg. To suppress the spreading toxin, the queen risked her own life, keeping constant watch over it. Celine, a graduate of the top mage academy, instantly sensed the truth and declared, "This isn't poison, it's a curse." She hurriedly mixed potions, joined by the twin scholars, who discovered the curse seemed natural, like a genetic defense mechanism against foreign blood. For ages, wyverns had reproduced only within their own kind, their bloodline rigid. Now, mixed with an outside lineage, the backlash erupted. A loud boom followed. their test concoction exploded. The conclusion was clear. This egg had become a purge bringer. With grim faces, the group gathered around the egg. Suddenly, it floated into the air, radiating a wave of malediction. The wyverns nearby immediately went berserk. Behind them, the strange man stared at the levitating egg and swallowed hard. ISO frowned in confusion. Why would bloodlines repel each other like this? The two scholars squirmed, suggesting the cause might be some impure relations. ISO barked. You're the experts. Think of a solution. Delay any longer, and we're all dead. Celine's eyes lit up. The only answer, the purification gem, a sacred relic worshipped by the water element elves, said to dispel any curse. Legends claimed the gem could cleanse all malice. But none of them had ever seen it. It was the elves' holiest treasure. ISO thought for a moment, then dug into his pouch. I do have some glowing stones I picked up at night. Think these might work? Celine took one look and froze. This is the relic. Even the current king has no right to behold it, and you're carrying a handful. ISO smirked in secret delight. But before he could boast, Odyssey cried out, "The egg! It's gone." They turned to see the strange man clutching it, sprinting away, muttering, "It's all my fault. If only I had resisted my desire, none of this would have happened." Then his foot slipped on a patch of slime. The egg flew from his hands. A surge of emerald light burst forth, the breath of verdant return. ISO leapt forward and caught the egg, grunting at its surprising weight. Celine raised the purification gem necklace, preparing to begin the ritual. The moment the gem touched the egg, radiant light encircled it, and the black shell slowly turned to gold. The egg shook violently before cracks split open. A pair of tiny, delicate hands reached out. ISO and Nona leaned closer. Inside was a half-dragon, half-human child, stretching lazily as if waking from a nap. The two exchanged glances. This had to be a genetic mutation. Celine rolled her eyes. That's not a mutation. That's the source of the curse. And right behind them, a massive maw opened wide. Thankfully, the queen intervened just in time, saving them from being swallowed. Yet the surrounding wyverns, infected by the egg's malediction, lost control and went berserk. Hadn't the curse already stopped? ISO grew uneasy. If something could survive here unscathed, then the truth was being hidden from them. At last, the Dragon Knight confessed, "I'm the father of this egg." The revelation left everyone stunned, their faces frozen in disbelief. For love, he had crossed the ultimate boundary, becoming a Dragon Knight in the truest sense. Years ago, he had been betrayed during a mission. By chance, the young queen saved his life. Over time, the two confessed their feelings, but he now paid the price for crossing that forbidden line. Their love defied race itself. Yet who could ever escape love's curse? Surrounded on all sides by raging wyverns, the group seemed doomed. Then, a newborn's cry pierced the chaos. Golden light radiated from the egg. The berserk wyverns instantly calmed, the curse lifted. Perhaps under the relic's power, the dragon girl had mutated into something new. Tears streamed down the Dragon Knight's face. The queen leaned in to comfort him. It's finally over. Indeed, love could create miracles. Yet wasn't it AISO love that had brought this calamity in the first place? With swollen eyes, the Dragon Knight seized ISO's hands, unable to express his gratitude, for ISO had saved the entire wyvern race. ISO simply replied, "Think nothing of it. We just lost some time. We need to move on." At that moment, the queen spoke, startling ISO. She offered to escort them part of the way. She explained that the ancient seal had suppressed not only reason, but even language itself. Fortunately, the newborn queen had unlocked that bloodline seal. With that, the party once again set off on their journey. Nona suddenly raised a question. How could humans and dragons possibly have a child? Before long, they arrived at the town of Amaru. The queen warned them that this place had been regarded as a forbidden land for over a century, and they must not linger. Inside the town, pairs of dead fish eyes stared at them relentlessly. They had to be especially cautious of these treacherous outsiders. As they walked, they came across a young man running a street stall. Just as he was about to speak, ISO tossed out a large bag of gold. He then pulled out a portrait and asked directly, "Have you seen this person?" The stall keeper hesitated for a moment, then replied lazily, "I've stayed here for 100 years and never seen him." ISO leaned closer and whispered, "Then have you heard anything about the Eternal Night Clan?" The young man didn't refuse, but simply spread his hand. More money. ISO wasn't someone to be pushed around, so he turned to Celine and said, "Show him what we've got." Since money had already been spent, the job had to be done properly. Celine opened her palm, and a spark of fire instantly flared to life. In this world, even a little talent display carried real intimidation. The stall keeper panicked and quickly said, "Actually, the Eternal Night Clan was just made up by the older generation to avoid conscription and war. They used that name to survive, and it's been passed down ever since." As night fell, the group settled in at a town inn. Nona let out a complaint straight from her soul. It was then they realized someone was missing. Elsewhere, inside a hidden room, Celine was mixing strange potions, muttering to herself, "Damn nouveau riche, daring to boss around the future great sage." She sneered, "I'll let you taste the power of my master, servant potion." Just then, ISO happened to push the door open. Celine immediately sprayed him with a concoction. One spray was enough to knock him unconscious and make him completely pliant. What she hated most was this rich man's constant bossing around. Sure, he had money, but so what? Who said spending gold meant everyone had to obey? Besides, she was destined to be a great mage. How could she allow herself to be ordered around? That was why she created the master, servant potion, to make him obedient. But first, she had a glimpse into ISO's inner world. The moment Celine entered, she froze. A hellish scene unfolded before her eyes. Molten lava flowing across the ground, scorching her face. She was stunned. What on earth has this guy been through? And then, dark silhouettes slowly crawled out from the molten river. Celine frowned. This was a mental defense, designed to resist foreign intrusion. As the dark shadows lunged at her, she thought, "I'm destined to be a great mage. This level is nothing." She charged forward, fireballs rapidly forming in her hands. With practiced precision, she blasted the shadows one by one. She even combined her spells, pairing two of the shadows together, then unleashed a charged laser beam, wiping them out in an instant. As the smoke cleared, every shadow had been destroyed. Celine relaxed, knowing that all she had to do now was find the master of this mindscape, and the contract would be sealed. But then, she sensed something behind her. At first, she thought it was a leftover shadow. To her shock, a towering figure as massive as a mountain appeared. It was an already existing contract. In reality, the two inside the room were fast asleep, one lying atop the other. This scene was witnessed by both Odysseus and Nona. Nona's face flushed red, utterly stunned. What on earth was going on? It was as if an alarm had gone off, waking the two on the bed. Still half asleep, neither had any idea what happened. But when their eyes met, the air instantly grew tense and awkward. On one side, Celine realized her master, servant contract had failed. On the other, ISO shouted, "Why are you on top of me? You're too heavy, get off." The words hit Celine like a command. Her whole body trembled. She immediately jumped aside, fell to her knees, and cried, "Please don't be angry, master. It's my fault. I'll be obedient." ISO was dumbfounded. "What nonsense are you even talking about? Totally ridiculous." He clutched his head and walked out. Meanwhile, Nona was left wondering what on earth had just happened between them. Later, back in her own room, Nona stared at herself in the mirror wearing the black robe. Could it be that ISO actually likes this outfit? Maybe I should try it on. And so, she really did. At the same time, ISO's bloodshot eyes widened. There were only 2 days left. The snail was coming again. Last time she split a mountain in half. This time, it could truly mean his death. Suddenly, his gaze locked onto a suspicious peddler. He glared without blinking. The moment the vendor saw him, he tried to bolt, but ISO caught him and pressed hard with questions. The vendor stammered, insisting he hadn't seen that person. But under ISO's relentless interrogation, he finally broke. She was the last of the Yongye clan, long declared dead, killed by the whole town together. When ISO heard the truth, he grabbed the peddler by the collar and demanded a clear account of what had happened. The peddler stammered through his memories, trying to excuse himself. "You can't blame only us. That girl wasn't normal. Born with terrifying strength. What 7 or 8-year-old can pull a giant bear apart with a blank face?" he said, panic in his voice. Regular ways to kill her just didn't work. But she was still a child then, easy to fool, so we all in the village used a trick. ISO grew impatient and pressed him for more. What did the girl look like? What were her features? But it had been so long, the peddler couldn't remember. He could only recall one thing. She had a pair of blood-red eyes. "I can't forget them." Seeing ISO's reaction, the peddler added haltingly, "You aren't looking for her by any chance, are you?" But she already. ISO didn't listen to the rest. He yanked the peddler along. They were going to the burial site, and ISO insisted on opening the coffin himself. Before long, the two stood at the edge of a dense mountainwood. The peddler trembled with nerves. Digging up a grave was disrespectful. He'd never done it before. ISO rolled his eyes. He had no right to talk about respect. He himself was a killer. When the peddler pried the coffin open, he froze. The casket was empty. He swore he'd seen her buried. The blood had been drained dry. ISO frowned. Could the deathkin have some strange method? He looked at the open coffin and sneered. "You lot were thoughtful. Killed someone and even bothered to make a coffin." The peddler hurried to explain. "It wasn't us. We hid away. A strange old woman persuaded everyone, played the helpless act to win consent. Who wants to take care of bad luck? That old woman must have seen the little monster still alive and saved her. Was she trying to doom us? That little monster will come back for revenge someday. Damn it. I'm going to burn that old witch now." ISO pushed past his limit, kicked him into the empty coffin. "You people deserve to die. Give me that old woman's address, or this coffin becomes your new home." ISO threatened, his voice low. "You have one night. The town isn't big. If I don't find her, don't blame me." The peddler stuttered that finding the old woman would be extremely difficult. ISO brushed it off. That was his problem. Otherwise, he'd let the man taste a magical roast of his own making. On the way back from the burial ground, ISO kept turning the situation over in his head. The peddler had a tragic childhood too. If the girl wasn't dead, wouldn't keeping her alive be better? Could it be that, under that contract of pursuit, she herself had been a victim? He couldn't keep running. Deep down, he knew. This felt like the final battle. Passing by Odyssey, he was asked if he had found any clues. ISO replied he had some leads and believed the matter would soon be resolved. ISO told Odyssey to call Nona to join them for dinner. He knocked on her door and pushed it open. But the instant he stepped inside, ISO's eyes widened in shock. That outfit, he'd recognize it even in death. Then a thought struck him. No, this timing was all wrong. And at this distance, even if he turned to run, it was too late. So ISO lunged forward, wrapping his arms around the figure from behind. If this was it, so be it. I want to know why they never let him go. Year after year, he cursed himself for agreeing to that God's contract. What a farce, treating people like fools. Tonight, even if it killed him, he'd demand justice. Yet strangely, the figure didn't fight back. Instead, she tried to escape. He yanked hard on the black robe. To his surprise, it tore off in one pull. Maybe it was bought too large. But ISO didn't care. His mind was locked on fighting to the end, and he launched another attack from behind. What he failed to realize was that the hooded woman was Nona herself. Her face filled with confusion as she recalled his words. Whatever happens, it's fate. Did he mean fate was to do something like this to her? Had he secretly harbored such thoughts all along? At that moment, ISO threw himself on top of her, unwilling to run any longer. Pinned to the ground, Nona whispered, "All right then. If it's Lord ISO, I'll allow it. But you'd better take responsibility. Her words froze ISO in place. Responsibility? Wait, why did that voice sound so familiar? He quickly pulled up the robe, and the moment he saw the two pale mounds beneath, his face burned red. Nona, why is it you? And why aren't you wearing clothes? That question nearly made Nona's brain short-circuit. Wasn't it his own hands that tore her clothes off? She jumped to her feet and shouted, "You bastard! What kind of man does this? Stripping a girl naked, staring her up and down, then asking why she isn't dressed." In the end, ISO was beaten unconscious and lay bedridden for days. When he finally opened his eyes, he bolted upright and yelled, "Nona, I didn't mean to." But the one who answered was Odyssey, telling him Nona had already left with some locals. She'd asked him to deliver a message. She had misjudged ISO all along. Odyssey himself was baffled. Just what had happened here? ISO froze at those words. A flicker of panic crossed his face, and he waved it off. "It's nothing." He quickly changed the subject, pointing at the worn book in Odyssey's hands, asking where it came from. Odyssey corrected him. "This isn't some shabby book. It's pricey. I dug it out from the old archive in town. Rare notes written a century ago about the Yongya clan." Hearing that, ISO leaned closer. The text stated that the Yongya's strength shifted with time. Once night fell, they unleashed terrifying power. ISO frowned. That lined up exactly with what he had suspected. He read further. The Yongya had been ruthlessly hunted in the past, which made them masters of concealment today. Odyssey sighed beside him. This race really lived a tragic life. His eyes fell on the final entry. "The Yongya don't have very good memories." ISO blinked at the line, startled. Just then, a shout came from downstairs. "Boss, I found her." It was the peddler. ISO immediately decided to set out. He banged on his guard's door and called, "Get up. Time to earn your keep." On the other side, Celine could barely contain herself. The moment she saw ISO, her cheeks turned bright red. As she followed him out, she asked shyly, "Master, where are we going?" ISO, oblivious to the weight of her words, answered casually, "We're going to find a very, very important old man." After an hour of trekking, the surroundings grew more and more desolate. Even as a mage, Celine was struggling. She kept asking, "How much farther?" The peddler leading the way glanced back and said, "Almost there. Just hold on." ISO snapped at him. "You're not playing tricks on us, are you?" The peddler quickly protested. "No way. I've been searching all night for this." He explained that the mysterious old man's mind and memory weren't very stable. But ISO wasn't fazed. He'd faced countless situations. He knew how to handle it. Staring into the distance, he thought, "Another person with memory problems? Still, it feels like I'm missing something important." But at this point, there was no choice but to move forward. Before long, a small cottage appeared in their sight. At the back of the group, Celine finally let out a sigh of relief when she saw the house. Celine perked up instantly, already thinking about which spell to use as she prepared to rush inside. But just then, a pair of hands yanked her back. She turned around in confusion. ISO stood there, frowning. "That's rude. What if you scare the old lady into fainting and she blames us for money? Ever heard of respecting the elderly?" Celine tilted her head, baffled. Respecting the elderly? She had never heard of such a thing. What kind of barbaric custom from another world is that? ISO sighed, waved it off, and said he'd try talking first. He knocked a few times on the door. Slowly, an elderly woman opened it, looking at them in surprise. Hardly anyone ever came here. After ISO's quick explanation, she let them inside. He claimed they were travelers who had walked a long way and gotten lost. The woman shook her head. "To get lost all the way out here, you really are careless." ISO cut straight to the point. He'd heard the last of the Yongya clan lived here and wanted to see for himself. But if the rumors were true, the Yongya were vicious. If they really ran into one, it could be dangerous. The woman chuckled softly. "Then you must have come with great courage. After all, human hearts aren't simply black or white. Branding an entire race with a false label over a rumor, that's far too unfair." Her voice grew calm. "Everything in this world exists by fate's design. I've seen too many fools try to meddle with it. ISO replied. In this world, plenty of things don't make sense. Maybe the gods just lost their minds and can't be bothered. The old woman laughed lightly. You speak in an amusing way, young man. But the rules of the world haven't shifted. Someone still has to bear that pain. ISO fell into thought. If choices must be made under unequal conditions, then I'd rather forever. His words were cut off by her sudden laughter. She rose slowly, muttering to herself, Maybe it's time for breakfast. Wait, did I already eat? ISO stared, still mulling over his own thoughts. Does she really not know anything? He frowned inwardly. Senile, huh? Looks like the lead is broken again. Just then, the old woman asked, What day of the week is it? ISO blurted out without hesitation, Saturday. It was tied to his survival. No way he'd forget. But what she said next nearly made his jaw drop. My Vera has caused you quite a lot of trouble, hasn't she? Thank you for taking care of her. End of chapter 29.